were telling me how they couldn't stay for this meeting where we just kind of find out how everybody's doing, because they had to go, because yesterday was the day that they were slaughtering chicken. So I was like, oh, okay, so you guys are going to go buy chicken. And they said, no. They're in a hurry because they want to go and see if they can get the innards of the chicken, because then it'll be that this month they'll eat chicken. And they were in a hurry to go and get them before they get picked up by somebody else. And that would be it's a good thing, because now this week they would have eaten chicken. And so I asked them, I said, okay, so what are we looking at? And they was like, yeah, if they can even get for 50 shillings, they will have chicken today and maybe the weekend. And as far as they're concerned, that is the meat that they would have. And I was like, my God, this is in the same country where people who are in positions to be able to change this way of life, or even upgrade it just a little bit, are actually joking around with it. So, I mean, it just grounded some realities for me in a very different way than they ever have before.
When I was growing up in Nakuru, I actually grew up in the Rift Valley in my earlier years. In Elgeyo Marakwet, a place called Tambach, then Nakuru. Now, they had a Kenya Creameries Corporation, KCC, in Nakuru. And every Saturday, if you went there, you could carry as much skimmed milk as you wanted for free when they'd removed the milk fat. Free. Free. F-R-E-E. That stuff is now sold because it's supposed to have 0.01% fat nowadays.
Right.
For health-conscious types and things like that. I'm simply saying, if you then went to, say, a place that sold chicken, claws, feet, intestines, head, Firi.
Now, no.
What?
And these ladies were not saying that you're going to go get the innards for the whole chicken. It was like two people would share the innards for one chicken. So 50 shillings would cover you for a week.
Let me tell you.
And so next week you go.
A stew made with chicken claws.
Lovely.
You have no idea how tasty that thing is.
Oh, Jui.
You have no idea. I remember asking someone in the days when I had a project, we were working in Kibra, and asked them how it is that they make this delightful meal for only 20 shillings. He told me, those tomatoes that people want to throw away because they're overripe. I said, I know those ones. He said, those onions that people want to throw away. He said, those things are not bad. If you take those things and cook them, he said, you will be amazed. I said, and I thought about it, I said, the man has a point.
That's where the flavor is.
Yes, I said the man has the flavor, the thing has ripened. That's actually what it has done. It has ripened. And I was to encounter the same story with someone who produced fruit juice, mango fruit juice. They wanted the mango. If they weren't ripe, they kept them.
Yeah.
The point at which they now started the process, the thing was ripe to the point where we're saying it's almost going bad. So no. That is when now...
That's the best, eh?
Yes. You don't add anything. All the ingredients required to make it sweet and juicy is embedded in it. So I thought I would just mention that some of the things that you talk about, if you grew up as a child in an African setting, you very rarely ate a part of the chicken. You ate intestines. They even allowed you to clean them. You also ate claws. That bird wasn't wasted.
No.
You ate certain parts of that chicken. As you grew older, somebody may throw you a wing. And that is why you'll find full-grown men, okay? Men specifically. Women were usually shunted aside in some of these things. When it comes to the thigh of the chicken, it becomes such a big issue. I, on the other hand, learned to ignore it completely.
Yeah.
To date, I don't like it. No. Because people scrambled for it. And you realize even as a child that this chicken doesn't just have legs, it has other parts.
Which are not as sweet.
Yes, so I'm told. But since I'm someone who doesn't really eat that part of the chicken that often, I really...
you're fine.
I'm fine.
You're good with it. You're good with whatever happens. Okay, so Welcome to the show, everybody. Today we're going to have an interesting conversation. The Standard newspaper has a bold new look. Your bold newspaper is now celebrating this very fantastic new look, and we'll be having a conversation about that today. This is the Standard relaunched yesterday with a new look. That logo now that comes in here, celebrating the heritage. It's a paper that's more than 100 years old, first published in 1902 in Mombasa. Now it has a new look online and offline. So we'll have a conversation about this with some of the bosses of the Standard Group, the people in charge of editorial and strategy. And then we will also have a conversation with Dr. James Mwangi. Dr. James Mwangi is from Equity Bank Limited, and you know him. He's a Group MD and CEO of Equity Group Holdings PLC and Executive Chairman of the Equity Group Foundation. What is it that can be done during this time of COVID? Resilience and recovery, looking at the strategies that people can deploy themselves. What can corporates do? We'll have a conversation with Dr. James Mwangi at 8 a.m. Then let's also talk about what's happening in the country, all right? Politics, there's Mambo Mingi, there's now this whole Ruto-Raila alliance, a meeting between Oparanya and Ruto that took place in Narok. They say it was a 9-hour meeting. So what is it? What's happening? What's being discussed? All those conversations coming up. COVID-19 in the country, and the numbers keep rising.
Yes, they do. Let's look at global numbers really quickly. 134,517,429 is what we're looking at. Let's look at recovered. 108,308,909. This is interesting because now we see slightly more currently infected patients than we have in the last 6 months. About 3 million more currently infected patients. For a while, it remained at about, the 21 million. Every time that we looked at this, 21 million were currently infected. But now we're looking at about 23 million and more in the last 6 weeks or so. So that was an interesting number to look at. Now, if we look at Kenya and the numbers that were then recorded yesterday. So Kenya now has 143,063 cases of COVID-19 having been reported in the country to date. Yesterday there were 1,698 new cases and 16 new deaths. Slightly higher than what we saw the day before when we saw 1,523. We've got to look at the sample size of this as well to be able to see, all right, are we looking at higher or lower positivity? In terms of what has been happening in the country most recently. Now, according to the Ministry of Health and what they reported yesterday, the COVID-19 cases, this was taken from a sample size of 6,000 plus, so slightly lower than the day before. We're looking at 1,620 patients currently admitted in various health facilities countrywide. 4,247 now are on home-based and isolation and care. 235 patients are in the ICU. 48 out of them are on ventilatory support and 155 on supplemental oxygen. 32 patients are under observation. So these are the numbers that we're looking at. 16 deaths having been reported yesterday. And they released 456 patients, 267 from home-based care and 189 from various health facilities. So the numbers that we saw of 1,000, sorry, I beg your pardon, a slight mistake on that, but 1,698 people tested positive yesterday. This was from a sample size of not 7,000, but 11,352. The positivity rate in the country right now is at 14.9%. 14.9. Okay?
14.9% yesterday.
Yesterday, positivity rate, yes.
Okay.
All right. So that's what we're looking at. Testing continues. We did hear from the Ministry of Health. I remember 2 weeks ago from Dr. Mercy Mwangangi that they wanted to now go back into community testing now that we're obviously looking at community spread and community infections, to then get an idea of what is really going on. We haven't heard about that again. I don't know what the plans are in terms of doing more testing, but right now it just seems that people are sick showing up to hospital, you test and you find out that they're COVID-19 positive. In terms of any targeted plans by the ministry, we do not know. Vaccinations continue. Also, according to the Ministry of Health, I can just give you really quickly who was vaccinated yesterday. So a total of 378,363 people have been vaccinated with the AstraZeneca vaccine. All right. And they hope to continue this. Of those 378,000, 104,000 are health workers, 30,000+ are security workers, and 52,000 are teachers. 190,000 are members of the public, who include those at 58 years and above. So, I mean, what they wanted to do in terms of what the target was, it's well under target, but is what we are told. So, like Dr. Mercy Correa told us yesterday, they're not even focusing on this second dose, right? So the million and 80 thousand
should be for 1 million people.
Yes, it should be for 1,080,000 people. It should be for them. Now, if we're looking at that as a number, then well under half with this 378,000 that we're talking about.
I think they should really think like that, especially now that you're not very sure about this receiving another batch and when you're going to receive that other batch.
Right.
Even if we say that the longer you stay, the better the performance of the vaccine, it doesn't mean that if you stay 6 months, you're better than if you got the second injection in 3 months. Because the government doesn't seem to be clear on when they're going to receive the next batch of vaccines.
No.
Just vaccinate those 500,000 people. It's better than saying you vaccinated 1,000 people, 1 million people, and you don't have the second jab. You don't know when it's coming.
You don't know when it'll come.
So the next, And this is all because of everything else that's happening around the world.
Yes.
So there's an issue with India and its own vaccination. There's an issue of hoarding by countries. There is a lot that's happening. Just...
And it's likely to continue happening.
Yeah.
Because amidst all this, countries are still grappling with just trying to figure out what to do with this disease. Fundamentally. Because there are those who are suggesting you use ARVs because after all, it is a virus. There are those who are claiming that certain ARVs work, the treatment may be expensive. There are those who tell you malarial medication may work. The truth is, it is a search and perhaps not find mission. And it's ongoing. Now, against this backdrop, you have a situation where human nature is your biggest enemy. People want to do the very things that guarantee that they will get infected.
Yeah.
And it's not a question of, it is a third world issue, it's a first world issue. It's just human beings being human beings. So, I think governments the world over have their work cut out.
Totally. 16 minutes after 6, the live stream is up. SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Let's take a break, see how the weather is going to look like today in the country and around the world. Remember, Standard Jobs, that is jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. That's jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Listing of jobs, all the jobs that have been advertised by various employers who are seeking employees listed there. Log on to jobs.standardmedia.co.ke and subscribe to a newsletter. Subscribe also to SMS alerts, and also just indicate the kind of job that you'll be looking for. So whenever such opportunities emerge and they're published on jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, you will receive notifications. In a short while as well, you'll start receiving career advice and other very, very important content on jobs. Good morning.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
The realest and craziest couple are now on your screens. Terrence and Chebi are bringing you top celebrities and trendsetters on Thursday Night Live. It's double the fun and double the laughter every Thursday at 10 p.m. on KTN Home.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo-soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to
Okay,
Spice
sprinkling certain
FM.
parts of Nairobi this morning. We're going to look at lows of 16 today. Chance of rain through into the weekend. Highs of 23 today. We'll also see highs of 23 in Nyeri. It's light rain at 15 as well, coming down to lows of 14. 16 will be the low in Nakuru today. It's mostly cloudy at 15 right now. Good highs of 25. We'll see highs of 25 in Eldoret as well. It's mostly cloudy at 13. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kisumu at 20. Highs of 27 and lows of 19. It's mostly cloudy in Kakamega at 18. Highs of 26 and lows of 15. 26 will be the low in Mombasa where it's raining as well. At 26, we're going to see highs of 31. 31 also will be recorded as a high in Malindi where it's raining at 26. Rain showers also recorded in Kampala at 23. Lows of 20 and highs of 26 today. Dar es Salaam, it's raining as well. 24 degrees, that'll be the low as it currently is now, going to highs of 30. 25 the high in Johannesburg, it's clear at 15. 33 the high in Lagos, it's also raining at 26. And clear skies in Kinshasa, for now at least, highs of 32 and lows of 24. The warm weather continues to ring in Beijing. It's 16 and sunny. It'll go to highs of 18 and lows of 6. Clear conditions in Paris at 3. Highs of 17 and lows of 9. It's also warming up ever so slightly in London at 7. Highs of 12 and lows of 5. And Thursday night rings in 10 and clear in New York. Supposedly going into a high of 20 come Friday and lows of 8.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
"20 minutes after 6, this is Kenya's biggest conversation. CT, so you told us, wait until you hear tomorrow's proverb. Hayawi,
Oh, that was the day before yesterday.
mwishowe huwa.
That was the day before yesterday. And then he told us yesterday about the nails when he said that.
Yeah, then today he said he has another one about houses.
The nail one was yesterday.
I know.
And it is yesterday that I mentioned tomorrow, which is today.
Okay, carry on.
I should mention it. Okay. He who burns down his own house knows why ashes cost a fortune.
Ashes cost a fortune.
He who burns down his own house knows why ashes cost a fortune.
Okay. Yeah, I don't get it.
Good. This is a good proverb. The ones you get quickly are not good proverbs.
I don't get it. So for me to get it, I need to burn my own house.
No, you don't need to burn your own house. Just ask somebody who has perhaps not given
Suffered
it
the
adequate
misfortune
thought
of-
and proceeded to burn his house and is now enjoying the regrets that come with such activities.
Hey. Okay. So let's take a look at the headlines. Start with the brand new Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard.
So, somebody is missing a kidney. And this is the front story, or this is the front page story. They took my kidney. Mystery. One scan shows, I want to say Ivan's 2 kidneys are intact, but in another, one is missing. It followed hospital visits where she had surgery. Doctors say this puzzling finding should be investigated, as it should. The story is carried on page 6 and 7. But this is a quote from her that kind of leads into the story. When I went to Bagathi, I was diagnosed with stomach problems and told I would need surgery. An operation was done after tests, but nobody mentioned kidney removal or that my kidney was missing. So you can imagine the shock and horror when this lady wakes up from this surgery and one of her kidneys is not there. So let's give a little bit of these details, find out what's going on. A few weeks ago, Ivan Kinagu, 22, walked into the priest's office in Nakuru Kwajenga slums with disturbing news. She had done all she could do to get answers. Now she had left all to God and hoped the priest behind the wooden door would intercede and give her something to numb the pain that was slowly but surely gnawing at her soul. She had suspicions. She strongly wished the medical report in her hands was wrong. She desperately wanted to blink away her current reality and start all over again, but she could not. Every knock on the priest's door confirmed that this was not a dream. Ivan had been discovered that one of her kidneys was missing. and needed guidance from the priest on what to do. Her suspicion was that it had been removed without her consent during an admission to hospital in Nairobi. 2 years ago, a nagging stomach sent her to Bagavi Hospital. And this is where that quote came from. When I went to Bagavi, I was diagnosed with stomach problems and was told I would need surgery. An operation was done after tests, but nobody mentioned kidney removal or that I had a missing kidney. It is only after she developed post-surgery complications that she stumbled on the shocking truth. I started getting fatigued and persistent stomach pain a few months after the operation. When I went back to Bagavi, I did another scan, and it was then I was told I was missing one kidney. She was confused. She only had one surgery in her life, the one to remedy her stomach pain. She was advised to go for another test to confirm that indeed she was missing one kidney. She went to Mama Lucy Hospital, where she got a similar conclusion. One of her kidneys was missing. Back in Kurikwajenga, the priest looked on as Ivan narrated the new developments in her life. So he wasn't sure what was going on. He was blank. Her surgery, the discovery of missing kidney, from where he sat, he was sure that before he called on divine intervention, he needed to explore a few more avenues on earth. It would be quite unfortunate if the doctor removed her kidney without her knowledge. It is something that has disturbed me because that would point to a dangerous trend in organ harvesting.
It's bizarre.
It's weird. So I think one of three things could have happened, or four things now. Number one, during the surgery, somebody made a mistake, nicked something and decided to now do away with the entire thing, right? Or, yes, indeed, somebody harvested this organ and was going to use it for some kind of sale. We hear now in the rest of this story that very few specialists in the country are able to actually remove an organ harvest an organ in a manner in which it should be ready for transport and other things. There are very few specialists in this country that can do that. So that's another option. There is also the option, maybe unlikely, that maybe she only ever had one kidney and even showed up to hospital or whatever with just one. Yeah, so those are the three that it could. I said four, so it's one of three. It's one of those happening here. Because people in hospital cannot explain where did this go, what.
But you see, previous scans
showed she had two.
Were showing two kidneys. Later scans were showing one kidney, and that's where the issue is. She went to hospital with abdominal pains. They said that we need to operate on you. It's not clear exactly. So what was the diagnosis then, and what was the issue that needed operation? So what are they doing? Was it appendicitis? What was it? She comes out of the hospital. She still experiences pains. She goes back and they're doing another scan to see, hey, what's happening? And then they're like, wait a minute. You have one kidney. And this is verified because she has taken one scan at Mbagathi. She goes to Mama Lucy, which confirms the same. So the issue of now having one kidney has been confirmed by two separate scans. So what is it that could have happened? And then the doctor, the thing is, the doctor whose signature appears or whose name appears as the one who's in charge of the operation and discharge is asked by the standard, but your name is here. He's like, okay, yes, I'm the doctor in charge at that point, and this is the normal occurrence that takes place. When somebody is being admitted or being discharged, the name of the doctor in charge is the one that's used. It doesn't necessarily mean that I am the one who discharged or admitted this patient, or I am the one who dealt with the patient. Everybody else who was around there, anybody else who was around there could have done that. And this is what happens. You use my name. He says, I'm not even sure that this is, I'm going to investigate to find out.
It shouldn't be hard to trace who performed this surgery on this lady at Bagavi.
Look, medical facilities have a clear roster as to who does what when. It is known.
Yes.
So-and-so is at this station, so-and-so today is at this, so-and-so is off, so-and-so. It's known. If somebody books an appointment and requires some investigations done, how do you get it done? Your details are taken.
Yep.
And the people who are on duty on that particular day are known.
Yes.
Yes. This isn't some secretive stuff that requires some profound investigation. On that particular day, those who are working at various, they are known.
They are known.
It's not
something. If it was a theatre, who was in theatre on that day? This is known. And what operations took place on the day, it's clear.
It's rostered. On this particular day, so and so, it's known.
Yeah.
Otherwise, these facilities wouldn't work.
Yeah.
It isn't as though people wake up in the morning and get back, okay, so who's going to do what today? No. It doesn't quite work like that.
You know, the thing is, I was just thinking right now, regardless of what happens, you find the doctor, you start asking questions. My kidney is missing. Did you actually take it for whatever reason? This young lady is walking around without a kidney.
Yes, but this
Without one kidney.
Yeah.
But she can live without one
Yes,
kidney.
she can.
Just like she could be a kidney donor.
Right, she could, but it wasn't her plan. It wasn't
Yeah,
her will.
that's the thing.
Her
It
kidney,
was
which
not anything in her plan to have
stolen.
it taken from her. Yeah.
But even significantly, please consider the doctor has to be careful. Medical negligence, my friend, is serious.
It's major. So that's what I'm saying. Even if you did nick it, right? Because we must understand that all these things are in very close proximity to each other. There is mistakes happen. Everybody can understand that. But even if you did, and then something happened as a result of that, whereby maybe you said, okay, well, here we are, we're in a bad state, we must remove this entire thing. Whatever the case was, then you kind of kept quiet about it and sealed things up, hoping that it would never come to light. It's a sticky situation.
You know, it doesn't come out often in the papers, but there's been one particular story of a certain pediatrician who was taken to court by the parents of a child. Apparently, whatever he prescribed for the child had convulsions. And those convulsions just kept increasing with the prescription. Now, they seized when somebody within the hospital said, no, let's just remove the drugs and let's see what happened. Okay? The case has been ongoing. For a doctor, part of what they work and function with is a reputation that they know what they're doing. So a doctor would be cagey.
Yeah.
You would really want to have your ducks in a row before you make a comment.
Yeah, but this is not like those things where you've maybe forgotten a tool in the body cavity or left a little piece of something. This is an organ that has been removed, whether
Yes.
it was a mistake
And it's a
or
kidney.
not. Yeah.
You know, just like, so this story is quoting Dr. Ahmed Twahir, a nephrologist and chairman of the Kenya Renal Association. We have interviewed Dr. Twahir before here on the issue of organ donation and organ transplant.
Yes, we have.
He says this particular matter of removing somebody's kidney requires specialists, and there are few who could do this. For such an operation to take place in a hospital requires very few and specialized people, and they are known. One, the doctor whose name appears on that, on the documents of Mbagathi Hospital on the day, Dr. Tineja, he says, when he was told a kidney was removed at the hospital, he says that would have required special consultation. That's his immediate reaction.
Yes, because it is something that
Would have required special consultation. By the time we are actually saying that, we are going into a kidney operation, then that's just say that you.
And you don't walk in and you get the operation on that day.
Yes.
No. First of all, certain tests have to be done. A lot happens.
A decision on removal of a kidney.
Yes. A lot happens before even that decision is arrived at.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's just look at some of the costs for these things on the black market, shall we? Just in case that was what we're looking at. Organ thieves. Of all transplants done worldwide, an estimated 10% are conducted illegally. Organ costs in the black market, for example, 7 million shillings. The price for kidneys in the black market, don't get any ideas. 200,000 shillings. Donors get as little as that if they are lucky enough to actually get off a surgery table alive. So 7 million is what it sold for on the black market. You could get 200,000 shillings if you're lucky. 10 years. The charges: anyone caught harvesting human organs illegally is liable to fine up to 10 million shillings or imprisonment not exceeding 10 years or both. 5,000 shillings to 100,000 shillings is the amount paid to smuggle body parts out of mortuaries. Kidney transplant stats, for example. 4.8 million shillings is the number of Kenyans projected to be suffering from kidney disease or by 2030. The Kenya National Hospital conducts about 15 kidney transplants a year. 15.
Kenyatta.
Yes, only 15 in a year.
In a whole
So
year.
you can understand now why this doctor was saying
it's bizarre.
it's not just something you're going to walk in and get like you're getting cough medication.
No, you can't. Let's take a
Right?
break, and then we also look at the issue of the law and the legal status of just going to donate your kidney
Your organ.
or whatever other organ. 28 minutes to 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Time for us to look at traffic. Any traffic report? Let's hear it from Ndu shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Okay,
Into
so
Spice
Chicago is
FM.
clear this morning. Not much in terms of traffic headed out into the city. It's looking pretty good. Right around the Utali Drift, no problems whatsoever getting into the city centre. Mombasa Road, on the other hand, that's a totally different story. Right at General Motors, as you're trying to get down Mombasa Road, it's jam-packed already. It was traffic at 4:30 this morning, so I don't know what this particular Friday is going to look like, but it's crazy. Kangunda Road, there's a little bit of traffic there as you're trying to get into town. So everybody is asking, hey, Mombasa Road, why? Even when I get up very early, I can't get off Mombasa Road. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. This is what it's going to look like for some time now. Plan ahead, but be careful. Some parts of the roads are slippery because of a little bit of rain that we saw this morning, and that we're likely to see throughout today. All right, coming out of Western's, not too bad, but we'll take a peek at that later and see what that looks like and how it opens up. Let us know, guys. Are you stuck anywhere? If you find a good route that anybody can use, tell us quickly. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi.
All right, it's 26 minutes to 7. So, issue of organ donation. When we were having a conversation with this nephrologist, Dr. Ahmed Tohir, he said they were advocating for this issue to be harmonized. A law had been taken, a proposed amendment to the law had been taken by the Ministry of Health to Parliament, and they were saying, okay, so what we'd like to do is amend the law on blood transfusion to include organs. But parliamentarians have also been lobbied by other stakeholders in this, and they say blood cannot mix with body parts. We can't put them under the same regulations. The Health Ministry was sure it had convinced the Departmental Committee on Health by October last year in the National Assembly to support a bill that would regulate all body organs under one roof. According to Dr. Simon Mweke of the Health Ministry, to create one agency for blood transfusion and miss out legislative instruments to govern other organ transplants does not make sense. The organs and fluids that the ministry wanted included in the law are kidneys, liver, heart, lungs, hands, penis, face, bone marrow, amnion, pancreas, stem cells, sperm, and eggs. More importantly, the ministry wanted to establish a legal framework to guide the harvesting of organs from the dead and the donation of bodies for research and teaching. What we have been told is unless the only thing that's allowed now is unless it's a family member donating their organ to a family member. And this particular case has got to be because this other family member is actually going through terminal. So your kidneys are failed and now you require a kidney transplant. Your immediate family member can donate. Anybody else cannot. You can't just go ahead and donate your body and say this body can be used for research. It has got to be regulated. We don't have this law. So this is what the ministry was trying to do. But in the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service Bill 2020, which should have come for its second reading, the parliamentary committee had rejected the ministry's plea, saying the blood and organs cannot mix. According to one committee member who did not want to be named, the organ regulations do not fit with the blood products bill. And we have told the ministry to develop an organs law to go on its own.
Makes sense.
Saying, come up with a separate bill on this.
And they haven't come up with a separate bill, have they?
No, that was just last year. They wanted to put it together. Say, if we are talking about because it's donating of blood for transfusion, let's add regulations on other body parts. But we want to have multiplicity of laws.
Why not? Because, you see, there's a problem when you mix and match these things. Huh? You then lack the clarity that would then be afforded if it was this one, damu, only. This one, organs, only. So, if you're talking about issues relating to blood, whatever, you know exactly where to go. If you're talking about issues that have to do with organs, you know where to go. Why am I saying this? It's for the same reason that you have specialties and subspecialties. Why? You could just say, but why don't you just become a pediatrician? Why do you need to become a neonatologist? But it's because, or why do you need to become a family doctor? I'm using medicine as the field of medicine as an example.
Yeah.
Simply because all these stages of human life have a special needs. And so you really do need somebody who has taken the bother, who has a general understanding, but someone who has taken the bother to understand a particular age group. For instance, if you look at the Western world, there is medical practice that focuses on people of a certain age. Geriatrics, they call it. And even then, they specialize it further. So it's not just geriatrics. If you're of a certain age, then there's a specialist doctor who understands those issues. It's it's for that reason that I'm saying this.
That's okay. But you can put it all under one regulation, one legislation.
Broadly speaking, yes.
All those things that
and
we're
then
talking
you
about,
can now,
different specialties in medicine, they're all governed under one law. And you will not have transfusion of any organ without thinking of blood.
That is absolutely true. I am simply saying that was the thought I had.
I hear your thought.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the thought I had.
So anyway, we have hit another snag. Now they have got to go back to the drawing board and it'll take another...
And
Why
Ivan doesn't have a kidney.
Look, why didn't they consult?
Or somebody else would like to
sometime-
donate a kidney today.
Sometimes I marvel. I'm telling you why I marvel. Look, you do know that one of the things that anyone who goes through the course of medicine in this school, you really have to be allocated a cadaver, a dead body, for you to learn how to. Now, there are laws that govern this. So it's not as though you just die and suddenly your body is there for science. No, there is a way in which procedure is followed before this is done.
Yes.
Now, with time, these procedures need to be improved on. I would assume that if you were talking about a law, you would consult the lawmaker and say, folks, what do you think would be appropriate for us to do if we're to bring it before you? After all, these committees that deal with health matters, a good number of the people in the committees are medical doctors.
Yeah.
Talking of the Ministry of Health, yesterday we touched on an issue regarding the importation of ARVs, diagnostic kits, ARVs for pediatrics, and the saga that surrounded the importation at the port. Okay, and I mentioned in passing that yes, an understanding had been arrived at the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Finance. Now, when I looked further, the understanding was that they were now getting an exemption. No. The Ministry of Health undertook to pay that 1.1 million shillings. They wrote undertaking to pay.
Okay.
Now, why am I bringing this issue? The thing has moved a notch higher. Okay? The Health Committee of the National Assembly, they have questioned the award of the contract to a privately owned American firm. And they're saying this firm, by the way, it was blacklisted in Nigeria. Yes. However, when you read this story further, the blacklisting that they speak of was this particular company, Chemonix, according to the article in the Business Daily, had subcontracted yet another organization to facilitate the distribution.
In Nigeria.
This story is in Nigeria, by the way. It's not here, it's Nigeria. It was called Zenith Carex. Now, they were cited for producing fictitious invoices, hold your breath, which was paid for over a period of 2 years by Chemonix. So, what was suggested and alleged was collusion between people who work for Zenith and Chemonix. Yes.
This Chemonix is an American agent.
Locally registered in the country, but
However,
it is.
yeah.
But it's not. It wasn't started yesterday. No.
Been around for some time.
They've been doing this. They've been in this business for the longest possible time.
This business, you mean, of transporting and clearing goods?
This
As opposed to
business
this
of
business
dealing
of
in this, yes. But then, members of that particular committee have come up and they've leveled certain accusations. They said, we need to defend this country from manipulation. The reference here is to why did they move from giving cancer that particular work when you know it's government-to-government donations, and why give it to a company that they say is clearly American? It may be registered in Kenya, but it's an American company. Yes.
Hey. Hiya. So now, anyway, I think the matter needs to be properly investigated by all authorities. It doesn't, and I still stand by this. Yes, USAID, you've been donating this to the country. It doesn't mean that you now can sit back and just make unilateral decisions on how things are going to run because somebody thinks that there is corruption in government. It's a government-to-government deal. You cannot cut those corners. If you believe that there are things that need to be done, have those conversations with government, document them properly and say, now this is how we're going to do it.
You know, one of the things that has always dogged the issue of donations is that one demon that keeps rearing its head. It's called corruption.
That's what I said, man. And it doesn't
always-
matter.
it
It doesn't
always
matter
does.
whether
And for
it's
avoidance of doubt,
in
there's
Kenya,
corruption in
America.
government, there's corruption in donors, there's corruption in NGOs, there's corruption everywhere.
You see,
It's
corruption
I
is
am
a-
not imputing any improper motive on USAID.
No.
I'm actually not even mentioning corruption. But I'm
Eric-
saying every time you hear the corruption in government, there's a facilitator.
Eric, corruption is a human activity. Okay? Do you hear animals bribing other animals so that they cannot be eaten? No, you don't hear it.
We just see them.
Do you hear
getting
trees
eaten.
bribing bigger trees so that look, it's a human activity. So long as they're human beings, you cannot rule out that possibility. It doesn't matter what they do, doesn't matter who they are. And it isn't the organization, it's people within the organization. And because they represent the organization, we will name the organization.
Yeah.
When we keep kicking the government in the teeth, it isn't as though each and every person in government is corrupt. The answer is no.
No.
If they were, this government would have collapsed a long time ago.
Yeah.
There are many people in government who actually do what they're supposed to do. Now, there's a small group of people who think that they are brought on this earth to just rob us every single day. And what is more, we're also supposed to keep quiet and thank them for robbing us.
It's 6:45. Quick break and then we look at more headlines. Good morning.
Spice up your life.
Okay.
So we can't afford the fact that, or rather, we can't avoid this story that is on the front page of the Standard. Coalition talks heat up as Ruto meets with Oparanya. Okay. So political leaders are reportedly holding secret meetings with potential allies as they strategize ahead of campaigns for the Building Bridges initiative and next year's presidential election. Deputy President William Ruto is the latest to jump on the bandwagon after he held a 9-hour meeting with Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya in Narok, just a day after politicians allied to ODM leader Raila Odinga met to craft a new alliance. The Ruto and Oparanya meeting was attended by former Cabinet Secretaries Mwangi Kiunjuri and Rashid Achesa and Narok West MP Gabriel Tongonyo at the DP's farm in Kilgoris. Had initially been planned for the morning. It was, however, pushed because Ruto had another meeting in Wasingishu. The meeting had begun at lunchtime and is said to have extended into the early night, thus forcing the leaders to spend the night at the Masai Mara Game Reserve because, there's curfew. Plus, Okay. As the private meeting went on, the planned unveiling of an alliance associated with Raila was pushed to next week as those involved sought to address mutual suspicions revolving around members' ambitions and fears of a domineering ODM. Sources said members do not want details of the alliance made public, because they are also involved in talks with other actors for the 2022 general election and believe that showing their hand too soon might prevent them from clinching better deals. All right, so this is what's going on. It's possible that you'll see a new alliance unveiled in the coming days. Nobody really wants to show their hand just yet because, you could get a sweeter deal on this other side. But at the end of the day, everybody's looking out for who? Himself.
For themselves. I'm telling you, if we get into 2022 and Ruto and Raila have a coalition, I will give it to Uhuru Kenyatta. I'll be like, dude, you're good.
Why will you give it to him?
Dude, you're good. That whole script.
Of
How it has
brotherly
moved.
handshake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, let's shake hands. Oh, I've abandoned this guy. Oh, we are not talking. Oh, and then
What I'm doing is actually bringing you guys
basically
together.
what I'm saying is, everybody, and very many times that you keep asking City, Are we sure that the president and his deputy are not in good terms? Are we really sure?
I've asked that question many times.
Can you imagine just removing the biggest obstacle to Ruto's Kumi ya Ruto
Yes.
by bringing that biggest obstacle to Ruto's doorstep, or taking Ruto to that obstacle's doorstep? My
But
God.
have we not also raised the question, what makes people think it is impossible for Raila and Ruto to work?
It's not impossible.
These are politicians.
Nothing is impossible when it comes to politics and politicians. Really, think about any kind of pairing that you want. Think about somebody who said something today and it looks as if they were going to convince you to within an inch of their life, and then they wake up tomorrow morning and it's the absolute opposite. In fact, don't just think about it or imagine it, expect it. So anybody who's saying, oh my goodness, how could this possibly happen? 9 hours meeting in Narok, what were they discussing?
For me,
you should have expected something like
the
this. It
impossibility
was not
in
impossible
politics,
to have it done.
Twofold. One, Raila Odinga joining KANU. That, in my mind, never going to happen, not going to happen, forget about it. It happened, and I said, okay.
And even became the Secretary General
Of the party. I said, whoa, okay. So what's going on here? Then we have this narrative that we had for the longest possible time since Jaramogi and Jomo Kenyatta disagreed. Luos and Kikuyus to work together, forget it. Then what happens? There's a Kibaki Tosha moment, and Kibaki gets a whooping 97% vote in Raila's backyard. And I'm thinking, hey, then there's another narrative because of the issues we had in 2007 and 8. My goodness, it is not possible for Kalenjins and Kikuyus to work together. What then happens? Not only do they work together, it comes to be that they are president and deputy. So, as far as politics in this country is concerned, I sit and watch and wait and discuss the possibilities. Like the other fellows who seem to be on the sideline, Mudavadi, Kalonzo.
Mudavadi will agree he's on the sideline.
They are. They are leaders, yes, but they're not at the forefront of this political race. None of them is.
You don't think so?
Let me repeat what I've said just so that it can be clear.
This truck has 7 lanes, my friend.
None of them are at the forefront. Let me just repeat it again. None of them are at the forefront.
This race truck
Individually,
has 7
they are
lanes. On lane number 1, you can put whoever. Lane number 2, whoever. But they're all on the same.
Yes, and
upper.
I'm saying they
now,
may
it could be on the inner lane, whereas when they start running, it appears like the guy on the outer lane is ahead. But when ngoja tupige corner. Let's go to the home stretch. You see.
Eric,
Musalia Mudavadi.
it's important to be polite about
One
these
Kenya,
things.
Apple.
Alliance, One Kenya Alliance.
Look, the alliance is a body to reckon with. But let me just say it again so that what I've said can be made clear. They are not front runners individually.
We'll give your opinion its space. Your opinion is right there. Pigeonhole, Apple, CT's opinion.
Yes.
There's a a committee called the House Resolution. No. The National Assembly Committee on Implementation of House Resolutions. And the chairman, Mr. Moiratel Olekenta, is shocked. He's wondering now, what do you mean? Come on. He's the Narok North MP. It's because there's a company in Athi River, in Mavoko constituency, called London Distillers Kenya Limited. London Distillers Kenya Limited has been there for a while. And then this new developer comes in, and they're called Edemon Properties, and they come and they develop a whole new housing estate nearby there. And they start raising a ruckus because they're saying that London Distillers is actually polluting the air, number one, and polluting the waters of the nearby Athi River. This matter has gone to Parliament. This matter has been investigated by committees of Parliament. Now, London Distillers has come in a letter addressed to the National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi, where the chairman, Mohan Galot of London Distillers, claims that there are some members of Parliament who have been bribed by this developer with free houses or subsidized houses in this new housing estate so that they can go against any resolution that would stand for London Distillers. And they say that the report of the parliamentary committee will be to sanction London distillers and say that they are polluting and therefore this.
But the thing is that you see this London distillers and the case of them polluting River Athi, it did not start last year. It's been there for at least 10 years. And I like how they're talking about how they're members of parliament who are probably trying to sabotage this whole process so that they can be pinned down for or be sanctioned. The truth of the matter is that they are polluting the Athi River. They have been polluting the Athi River for a very, very long time.
Truth based on what? On findings by NEMA? Any such findings?
There have been findings by NEMA. Same thing that we are talking about, even about these other
steel rolling mills and this
burning
chemical,
and smelting early hours in the morning. NEMA has found them to be. But then there are things that happen between a tribunal and then again between another report whereby there's some silence. There's radio silence over the issue, and then it comes up and rears its ugly head once again. But it's very interesting that now what they're trying to point people's attention to, and I'm going to stick with them because there's a problem, there's a threat to the environment, then we have a problem. They're taking the attention away from the fact that Athi River continues to be polluted greatly by the operations of this
Yes, but are they the only people who direct the affluence or whatever it is that direct?
No, but this case is being brought against them in this point. Others who are doing it, maybe they have a case, we don't know.
Actually,
but in this case...
I'm not trying to water down what you're saying. There's a point I'm trying to make here. These issues are separate. Are they or are they not polluting
Athi River?
Let's start there.
Yes.
Number one. Edaman is a developer, we know.
Yes.
Okay? If members of parliament, let's leave the members of parliament bit and say these are potential buyers and they received the buildings at a concession. Do we know if they did? Do we know why they received these buildings at a concession? If they did, we don't know.
Do you know if it was a gift?
Why are members of parliament who are sitting in a committee that's investigating a matter involving this developer getting houses in this development?
Actually,
that's a matter that
I think
deserves.
You've gotten to the heart of the matter. Who else gets houses? If you are a developer and you are developing, who would you give concession to? The first group we would give concession to are the county people, the county in which you're investing.
Influencers.
Yes, you would. Because it's there. This falls under, some of them it's commercial, some of them is under PPP. So you have an arrangement with that particular county. It is their land, and you arrange and say, okay, so that you can get benefit out of this. X number. Precisely.
This is a purely commercial.
Actually, yes and no. Even PPPs are commercial.
This is a purely commercial. You see the PPP you're talking about? Buxton. That, where you can say now, the county will then get X for this, from this. County will decide who benefits from the houses. That's one thing. But you, Mr. City Muga, you've gone and bought a piece of land in Machakos County. You are developing. It doesn't mean that now that is I'm going to give concession to the governor.
What I was saying, Eric, is I don't know the arrangement they had with Movoko County regarding that land. I was only bringing in this discussion to say there's a lot we don't know about the arrangement that was there.
But what we do know is that Athi River is being
polluted. Yes, what we do know is that that particular distillery exists, and that what we also do know is that Athi River is nearby. And we also know that many people who have factories in that area do not adhere strictly to environmental laws. So the likelihood, even as we point a finger to the MPs, and we should, we cannot remove the finger from this entity that has been the news for, accused of the very things that they're now being accused about.
For a decade.
Yes.
Not yesterday. For a decade.
And by the way, they've been in existence for over a decade.
No, the case about this pollution has been on for a decade.
It has been there for more than 2 decades.
Yeah, the case we're talking about has been there for a very long time.
So this case should be investigated by the people who should be investigating.
Yes.
Right? If it's Parliament, if it's NEMA, if it's taking them to court, that is separate. Members of Parliament being bribed, I am not running away from that. That I'm born with a stick with a bone and dog.
No,
I'm sticking with this stick if you want. It's okay.
This one,
Eric, by all means,
members of Parliament, it should also be investigated.
They should,
because this happens a lot.
They should. But the danger
and you know, as a developer who is only making houses to sell, I don't see why I should be bribing members of Parliament. Unless there's something else that I am trying to hide myself.
It's an accusation.
Yes.
They haven't been bribed yet. there's an accusation that they have been bribed.
Yes,
we do
and
not
it's
even,
on record.
We don't even know that they have been bribed,
It
do
is
we?
what I'm dealing with, what I'm basing this on, a fact that has been presented to Parliament. That is record.
It's an accusation.
What's
my
on
friend.
record is an accusation that a developer has bribed members of Parliament. That should be investigated.
What is on
and
record?
also should be investigated. What is it exactly that would make you want to bribe and you are just selling houses?
Eric, what is on record also is that that particular enterprise has been
Accused.
Accused, yes.
And-
That's the subject of the investigation. The
Yes.
primary subject of the investigation
Yes.
surrounds this, and it has taken so long.
If it's taken
If you
so
start
long,
if you start going that route that I'm saying, you will find out why it has taken 10 years plus to finalize this case. That's where I'm
has
heading.
it even been finalized, really?
No, it hasn't.
That's what I'm saying. It has taken over 10 years to actually get anywhere with this
It hasn't.
case.
There has never been anything like a
means-
judgment to say
It
that
means
this organization has
that
been
there are
found
people
guilty
who've
for
been
this.
bribed all along. Everybody who has received a bribe, whether it's from London Distillers, whether it's from Edelman Properties, anybody should be investigated.
On that, we are in agreement.
Bas. Let's take a break and see what's happening on the roads, and then we come back and look at this bold new Standard newspaper. I like the emblem, celebrating the heritage since 1902, and now it's the Standard. New look of the Standard. We'll be speaking with the Chief Officer, Operations and Strategy at Standard Media Group, and this is Ben Omolo. We'll ask him, okay, so what does this mean? What is it for? What does it mean for the group itself? What does it mean for the readers of the Bold News Standard and also the newly launched digital platform? Good morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. You have in the room with you CT Muga, Nduoko, and Eric Latif, and we'll shortly be live on KTN Home in addition to being live on our digital platforms, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Good morning. 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Spice FM, Nakuru.
All right, so yes, we do have a jam-packed situation on Mombasa Road this morning, all the way from the Weybridge at Mlolongo. It snakes along slowly, then towards Cabanas, out towards General Motors. Very, very slow this morning. General Motors, guys, that's the one that's going to give some folks headaches this morning and going into the weekend, because it's getting thinner and thinner, unfortunately, and the construction continues, slows things down considerably. So you get to South Sea, you get to the nearest state roundabout, you're stuck in another piece of traffic for some time. The Likoni interchange now getting onto Mombasa Road and then trying to join the southern bypass. Going to take you a minute to get out of this one. Let's look at Landys Road coming from Jogo Road. It's not too bad getting into the CBD. Coming out of Westlands into the city as well, it looks good. Limuru Road snaking along slowly, but not too much of an issue now. Let's take a look at what Friday looks like in Mombasa. KFS tells us 3 ferries are up and serving you this morning. Don't forget, *721#. Pay your ferry toll that way. Don't go with cash or you won't be allowed to get through. Let's take a look in about half an hour and see how traffic is looking. SpiceFMKE on Twitter is how you can get in touch, or text on 40127. Want to keep things moving this Friday morning.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have CT Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth,
Hello, how are
Kenyan
you doing?
by
It's
choice.
the second hour of the show. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, Nairobi, 94.4, Mombasa, 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu. Nakuru is 96.0, Eldoret, 96.7, Malindi, 97.7, and Nyeri, 90.9. We also live stream the show on SpiceFM KE. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Twitter. We're live on YouTube. And we're also live on our platforms, www.spicefm.co.ke. For the next 2 hours, we're also live on KTN Home. Siti Muga, today's proverb.
He who burns down his own house knows why ashes cost a fortune.
He who burns down his own house knows why ashes cost a fortune. This one for today. Maybe it's because I'm refusing to accept the thought of burning down your own house.
Therein lies the magic of this particular proverb. Yes, the truth about improbabilities and the consequences of the improbabilities becoming probable.
That's why the proverb is true. The issue that you're having with it is why the proverb makes sense. Because you don't want to looking at this pile of rubble or this pile of burnt stuff means that you took a wrong decision to burn down your house. So you wouldn't want to burn it down, just like you're saying, Eric.
Okay.
Do you
so
see?
why are the ashes costing a fortune?
As in,
They represent the
they
house.
represent what was
It was.
lost.
And now isn't. Or is in this form.
Expensive ashes. Okay. 1902 is the first time the Standard newspaper was printed, and the printing press was in Mombasa. More than 100 years later, the Standard newspaper is printed every evening at the Standard Group Center on Mombasa Road. Just here, where we are right now. Yesterday, the Standard Media Group decided to rebrand the Standard newspaper. It has a bold new look. The Standard, new fonts, new layout, new everything, and then also looking at the kind of content that is going out into the paper, bold new content. This is not the only rebrand that happened. There was a transformation as well in our online and digital platforms. Okay, standardmedia.co.ke. This is not the only kind of transformation that has taken place at the Standard Group. As you can see where we are right now, we are sitting in a brand new swanky modern studio, which is an audio-visual radio station where we broadcast on radio. We are live streaming the show via video on digital platforms, and we are also live on TV. It's not the only thing that the Standard Group has done. Just recently, there was the unveiling of a brand swanky new newsroom, which brings together all arms of news gathering and news intake and news output. And this is what we call in media terms convergence, converging all the platforms that you have, thinking how can consumers consume your content in one way. Those are things that I'm just talking about because I've seen them happening. But the person who has been at the forefront of looking and developing and leading in this is joining us on the line. He is the Chief Officer for Operations and Strategy, Mr. Ben Omolo. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Eric, Ndu, and City.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning.
Yeah.
So, Ben, let's start with this new look Standard. Just tell us about it, the thinking behind this, and the thinking behind also unveiling this new digital platform as well.
Yeah. Part of this was what we had set out in our strategy 2017-2021. We had said that we're going to have a convergence of the newsroom so that we can bring our different products together and then ensure that we are more efficient in terms of how we gather news and how we disseminate it. The advantage here is to then make it appropriate for the different platforms which we will be able to disseminate it through. So it's just an efficient way of doing it. But secondly, was also to ensure that we end up being a digital fast newsroom, aligning with the changing trends and habits of how our audiences are consuming our products, largely through the mobile phone. And so you want to make sure that you are able to reach them quickly, efficiently, with the breaking news, with then in-depth stories that they would be able to engage with that is factual. So part of the journey then was to renew our products, and we've started off with the Standard, which is our legacy product. We have this new look that we have today published. It has a better font, it's easy to read, and we want to ensure that it's more filled with graphics and data and makes it easy on the eye and navigation. If you talk about the website, you'll also find that is a similar approach that has been taken. And so you find that the website is better organized, easy to navigate, and even the e-paper, which is then loaded in there, is easy and is optimized for the phone as well, to ensure that you're able to get your news product or the website. And then we have, of course, the Insider on the other side as a premium product where you then log in and get some of our premium stories.
Ben, all of this is happening in a world which you've kind of alluded to, where the newspaper previously was seen as a dying product. But still, we see in some parts of the world that we're still consuming news through traditional forms, like the newspaper. Are we still meeting the needs of an audience with the newspaper? And still as a product that we will still go on with even towards the future, even while we have, the complementary products of digital. We still, it's a legacy product, like you said, for the Standard Group. But will the newspaper still continue to take center stage as the rest of the world is still moving in the other direction?
Yes, indeed, as the world continues to move in terms of a digitalized world, we will still have a group of people who enjoy reading the hard copy of the paper. However, as you will see, the format of the paper as it is on the print side is exactly how it is then extrapolated on the e-paper for the digital version. But yes, we will still do have the hard copy, which we believe is a sufficient number of people who would still be interested in reading the hard copy format. And that's why we have just redesigned it. It's looking fresh. It's looking easier to read, with more fact and analyticals and infographics, just to make it easier for somebody to be able to come in and get good information. And that is part and parcel of ensuring quality journalism. So yes, we do believe that there will still be a market for the hard copy.
Ben, there are those who have alluded, I'm repeating for the second time, alluded to the notion that when it comes to social media, the tweets, the SMS messages, what is the term? The every media house has them. Breaking news, yes. See, I lost it for a while there. That the consumers for this shortened form of news hold a very large sway on the market for consumption for news. And yet we still have news in the format that has been, well, in essence, for the longest time. Are we really in a competition with this particular aspect of news consumption? Are we effectively in competition even with this new look?
I think the issue of breaking news, and one needs to understand the whole philosophy of journalism, is therefore to say that, yes, there is the aspect where the social media would be able to break news, and we also have got social media handles where we would be able to break news. However, what we are saying is that we have got to, number one, investigate the story deeper, and then bring out what may not be carried in terms of the social media. And yes, there's a sense of collaboration with the social media as well, because as you see, and as a story expands, and there are questions people are raising in terms of what really happened, that gives the journalists in the newsroom the opportunity to then answer those kind of questions, both on social media, but in some cases, it requires the in-depth journalism. So it's basically going to work in collaboration, because as people ask questions about something that has happened, that's the opportunity for the journalist to go back, get the research, what's the background, could this have happened in the past, and then get all those different things together and repackage it to the long read for the next day. So the day two journalism is much deeper, more analytical. You can then be able to make sense of what that story really means and the other facts around that story. So you make it a comprehensive and engaging thing. Now, Once you have broken it then on social media and you have repackaged it in this converged approach of the newsroom, then you will use the appropriate platform for the different audiences. So the long read on the paper, the TV, like KTN News, would then have it differently than appropriate for that particular audience, and online would also have it. Radio would also have it. So that's what we believe excellence in journalism is going to bring. So it's working in collaboration with the social media platforms.
We've also seen various media organizations around the world now looking at going digital first, but also understanding the need to have quick bits information. Basically, just sending out the information in snippets so that it can be consumed fast and by somebody who's on the move. The Standard Group is also rolling these out, but also at the back of that, even with the other media houses, is the research bit of we want to stay ahead of the game, stay ahead of the curve in terms of what is the new trend in consumption of information on digital platforms. How is the Standard Group doing this?
Yes, and you're right. One, as we have said, the Standard Group has been in existence since 1902. So we have a rich history of archive. We were also the first independent television, KTN. And so we have then this whole heritage. And so we want to bring our legacy by digitizing some of that and also enhancing our newsroom with researchers and data analysts to be able to help us then bring this together so that when we have a story, then it is a well-researched story. We are able to go into the history, what was said or what was done or what happened in the past and how does it relate to what is occurring today. And therefore bringing in stories that are, number one, factual. The evidence exists to support that story, and therefore it is true, and that the journalists have then provided an excellent tapestry of the story to ensure that the audience then receive quality product.
Then the other issue is, of course, on pricing and costs. We buy a newspaper for 60 shillings every day. And then for the longest time, when you're consuming news on digital platforms, you want to consume news for free. Now, how do you sell the idea of having a paywall to somebody who wants to consume news, but just because it's coming from an authentic media house like the Standard? So now going into the Standard and then saying, we want you to pay a subscription fee so that you can consume the news. How do you sell that?
Okay, so we have the hard copy of the paper at 60 shillings, and then we have the online version on the website at 40 shillings. Then we have it also with our partners for those who want to consume it digitally. So if you go to Safaricom, you'll be able to get it. And we also have it on WhatsApp at 20 shillings because the cost is much lower. But for the paywall, and this we will be having some premium content that we believe those who want the long format and the long read would be able to get a bundled package so that then they are able to get into the Insider. Now, the paywall in the Insider will have exclusive stories in depth based on different interest areas. So, for example, if you're somebody who has an interest in financial issues, then we'll have much deeper stories that are well done that would then be behind the paywall. Now, I think we've got to appreciate that good journalism, excellence in what we are doing has a cost. And therefore, we will provide those stories behind the wall. This is the trend that has happened across the world globally. And so it is one of the things that we will be doing. So good journalism comes at a cost, and we will be ensuring that it is very quality stories that are behind the paywall that one would be willing to pay. We will have, of course, a combination of some free stories on our website, which we will be able to give our audiences and customers. So it will be a hybrid, but we'll have exclusive stories, some investigative stories behind the paywall.
Ben, I'm listening to what you're saying, and there's something I had to make a statement, and I want you to tell me whether I am thinking correctly or I need to be corrected. These changes that we have come up with, I am taking the view that we are responding to what the individuals, the people who consume our products in its diversity, have indicated, and we are in alignment with the trends that are actually happening worldwide. But more importantly, the focus is on what those who consume our products would like. Am I assuming this correctly?
You're correct. One is that, yes, we are aligning with the international trends, which, of course, have gone in this direction. Number two, yes, we have contextualized it to our consumers. Largely, we have the Kenyan audiences, but we also, with the digital world, are able to get across the globe. So we do have a number of consumers who are outside our country. And so we are responding to not only international trends, but also what our consumers would be looking for. And we are also benchmarking with leading newsrooms and media houses. And so as a group, we want to set the standards in excellence of journalism and to ensure that we are responding to what our customers want. So, for example, the reason why we want to be digital first is also to ensure that we have been able to optimize our products for the mobile phone, because we know that in a country such as Kenya, the mobile phone is indeed the first place that people consume news. And so we will be able to ensure that we get the quick SMS or USSD breaking news on the mobile phone, and then enhance the story and still ultimately have a paywall for the extra that the consumers would be willing to pay for.
I mean, even also looking at the launch and then going forward with some of these that you've talked about in terms of what consumers and what international trends then are dictating or demanding, one of the longest held out conversations that we've had about what is reported in media, whether it is what we are putting out there for the audience to consume, or are we answering the demand of the audience now when it comes to content? So are we putting it out there and saying, take what we are giving you, or are we putting out what has come from the audience as a demand? So whether we're covering more politics, whether we're covering more of human interest stories and trends, are we looking more into finances? What dictates what will be covered, what has been covered in the past and will be covered in the future?
Okay. Journalists have the ability to shape opinions. And so it's balancing what the consumers want and what is happening. And so there is a balance which we will pursue. If you look at the news standard, we then have got the stories of the day, the in-depth analysis, then you have the investigatives, but you also have got specific magazines that have been created that respond to the need that the consumers have asked for. And that you will find also as we will be enhancing the content in the different platforms, largely responding to what the consumers are looking for, but also driving the agenda of the newsroom, which is to ensure that we tell the truth, tell the stories in a factual manner, but also help shape agenda and to be able to help the audience understand what is going on, not only in their country and in the environment, but bring it in such a way that it helps us create a better world.
Looking at today's headline, for instance, they took my kidney. This story of the lady Irvin and the plight of that, and then inside the pages there's the whole look of the law that hasn't gone to pass, the international trade in illegal trade in body parts. It's basically coming on the day that the Standard has relaunched and it's giving a focus on the news. Is it an indication that now the focus will be, especially editorially, a lot more on the people stories? Because I'm seeing the political story is getting some mileage there, but it's not the big story. Is it like sort of a shift in editorial thinking and editorial strategy?
Every day there will be a balance of what you want to bring out. I think we started off today very well with this investigative story. Very interesting. I had your conversation in the morning as you were going through the headline, and I decided to just count my teeth once more. I'm not so sure that a dentist pulled out one. Okay, but this was a very interesting investigative story, and then connecting it with legal framework that has not been completed. So then the question we need to ask is, as a people, as Kenyans, how sensitive are we, or what is the policy? What is your fallback when an incident such as this would happen? I mean, when you go to the theater and you're under complete anesthesia, I think you believe 100% that your doctor is going to do what you're there for and is not harvesting anything. So this is the kind of a story that then brings out good national debate. What should be the policy? How is it that you still need a long investigation of who was the doctor in charge of that day? So this is the kind of a story that then helps us discuss further. There's a policy that's not complete, so how do we accelerate the completion of that particular legislation or regulation or framework that then ensures that you, as a patient, feel comfortable going forward while you are in any hospital. So yes, there's a balance between the human interest stories, the politics of the day, and other issues. I think in the last few days there's been this whole public debt conversation. It's just to get Kenyans to understand what happened and what then should we do. And this is where we talk about agenda setting. So what is that you need then the public leaders to then respond to, because that's what the citizenry are asking for.
Indeed.
So it will be a balance,
Benedict Molo, Chief Officer, Operations and Strategy at the Standard Group PLC. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We know you are always listening to us and you give us your feedback on various issues, and we thank you for that as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good job.
Thanks, Ben.
Yep. And big thank you to all the team in the editorial department on what they're doing. The new look is brilliant. It looks very, very good. And also consumption of the digital platforms as well. Very, very good. Asante sana. Speak to you soon.
Thank you very much. Asante.
Thank you.
25 minutes after 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Keep it right here. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to be talking about somebody who's actually been taken to court and they've been released and they've been told, okay, there are some things that you can't say and others that you cannot say. Let's talk about those kind of things, shall we? Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
It's time to answer questions that are worthwhile. The Big Quiz Show is here. Register to play from the comfort of your home by SMSing the word JOIN to 23774. Then watch the live show on KTN every Sunday from 8 p.m. where you could have a chance to win a melee. The fastest and most accurate answers are guaranteed to win. The Big Quiz Show, Sundays at 8 p.m. only on KTN.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog.
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Afande umbo yako iko na pembe.
Nini umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, so we're still looking at a bit of a drizzle in certain parts of Nairobi. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 17 today. It's also raining in Nyeri at 15, highs of 23 and lows of 14. 16 will be the low in Nakuru today and partly sunny. Going to highs of 25. 24 will be the high in Eldoret. It's sunny at 15. Mostly cloudy at 20, highs of 27. 26 the high in Kakamega. It's mostly cloudy now at 20. Looking at a weekend of rain in Mombasa, highs of 31 and lows of 26 today. We'll see highs of 31 in Malindi and lows of 27 and rain through most parts of today. Kampala is partly sunny at 22, highs of 26 and lows of 20. 30 the high in Dar es Salaam. Rain showers at 24. 14 degrees and clear skies in Johannesburg. Highs of 25 and lows of 13. We'll see lows of 27. 26 light rain in Lagos this morning, and it's mostly cloudy in Kinshasa at 25. It'll go to highs of 32 and lows of 24. Okay, so it's still kind of blocked on Mombasa Road this morning. As you're trying to get into the CBD, it's going to take you some time. This one I'm just going to come to terms with, all right? Some good things are happening, maybe. We're looking at around Masai Lodge coming from Rongai. Police are issuing on-the-spot fines to overlapping matatus that are causing a lot of drama and traffic in that area. This drama is spilling over then onto Langata Road, right around Bomas as you come down out then towards the Timor roundabout. So police are trying to do their job there and say, okay, well, do this, you pay, you get out, move it on. So we should hope that the traffic there subsides in not too long from now. Coming out of Westlands, where visibility is low, coming past Kikuyu, you want to be careful because the roads are slippery and you need to have your fog lights up and out, all right? We'll take a look at Mombasa Road later and see where you might get stuck. Help us out here as well, guys. See a place where nobody should go to. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter or text on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
Half past 7, Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Very good morning to you and thank you very much for tuning in. We are live on Spice FM. We are live on KTN Home and we are also live online. Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter and www.spicefm.co.ke. Every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., you have Ndu Oko, CT Muga and Eric Latif in the room with you. So let's shift the conversation and talk about, activism. So the last couple of days, Kenyans have been expressing their feelings with regards to the announcement by the IMF on the lending to the country 257 million shillings as support for its various programs. Guys went onto social media. They went onto IMF's social media pages. We talked about this on radio. There's one activist who is called Mutemi Wakema, who also went on social media and he created some posts that landed him in trouble. Not the first time that Mutemi Wakema has landed in trouble because of expressing his views and his opinion. He was taken to court. He was released on some bail and he was also given some instructions by the courts. Now, we want to understand what those instructions were and what exactly it means then to this particular push. Civic awareness, civic activism, when somebody wants to participate in a conversation, do we have the freedom or not? Joining us, we have Winfred Gaki. She's a program officer at Civic Space at Article 19. Alongside her is Demas Kiprono, who's a campaign manager at Amnesty International Kenya. Let's start with you, Gaki. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the show and welcome to the Situation Room.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Demas, good morning. Good to have you on the show as well.
Same here.
So let's start by you helping us to understand the issues surrounding Mutemi Wakema's posts and then what has happened in the corridors of justice. Kaki, you can just explain.
So what happened with Mutemi Wakema is that he was arrested on Tuesday at night, and up to now he has not been charged. So the following day, the state made an application to detain him for 14 days so that they could conduct investigations. And these investigations are pegged on the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act. So these are false publications. You will recall that Mutemi had posted a picture, decrying these additional loans that the president wants to procure with IMF. And so that is the basis upon which he was arrested, and the state wanted to detain him, but the same was rejected yesterday. However, you ordinarily, once the court rejects the application to detain an arrested person for longer, they would make an order for his release. But what we saw is that a bail terms was set at a very inordinate, an inordinate bail was set at 500,000 Kenyan shillings, which is extremely high, especially in this difficult COVID-19 pandemic period where, everybody, most people have lost income. So, and, that was, this is extremely problematic because the very essence of bail is only to ensure that someone attends court or is able to cooperate with investigation officers. But in a concerning turn of events, this did not happen.
Is there a threshold that one would expect these bail terms to be set at, given whatever it is that is understood to have brought that individual before the court of justice? Is there a limit? Is there a scale? As in, like, if I kick your left foot, you can only charge me 20 shillings. If
you kick both,
if I slap the back of your head, then this is the sort of bail that I should have. If I stare at you badly, are they such structures?
So what happens is that we usually rely on the discretion of the judges. However, there are guidelines in place that guide the judicial officers and police officers when setting bail and bond. So there is a guideline currently. It's called the Bail and Bond Guideline, which was developed by the National Commission on Administration of Justice, which is couched under the Deputy Chief Justice. And there are certain principles that are supposed to guide the judicial officers, and key among those principles is the presumption of innocence and the right to reasonable bail terms. So you're supposed to, the judicial officer is supposed to exercise the discretion, but should ensure at best that the bail terms that are set are reasonable. So for instance, Mutemi has not been charged yet. So setting the bail at such a punitive, high level, it is almost as though you're saying that he has committed this crime.
Can I ask Can I ask a question, Gaki? If a charge had been leveled against him, would this 500,000 shillings then be justified?
So there is no justification for setting inordinate bail terms. So whether he has been charged or not, the judicial officers are supposed to be guided by the right of presumption of innocence and also the right of the accused person or arrested person to reasonable bail and bond terms. So it doesn't really matter whether he is charged or not. It's just that that discretion is supposed to be exercised in a very restrictive manner so that you do not go beyond what is necessary to ensure that the arrested person or the accused person is able to cooperate with the police or is able to attend court.
So Gaki, do I understand you to be saying that the magistrate misused the discretion that is accorded to them by our laws?
So my opinion is that that bail amount is inordinate, is extremely high, even for the proposed crimes that were being investigated. and especially in the interest of, and especially in the public interest. Because remember what Mutemi Wakiama was speaking about was, asking for accountability, asking for transparency for the loans that Kenya had already been loaned. So, essentially, Kenyans are asking, why do you want more loans when you haven't accounted, for the loans that you've been given before? So these are what we call public discourses. So when you start setting such bail terms, then it starts creating fear, even among ordinary citizens, about, can I comment about, various decisions that are being made by government. So it's against that backdrop, then, we say we should be exercise, restraint, so that we don't effectively stifle free speech, especially speech that is furthering public discourse.
Dimas Kiprono, the campaign manager at Amnesty International, was Mutemi Wakiama told not to make any public comments on this particular matter of loans and Kenya borrowing and public debt?
Yes. In fact, one of the most outrageous incidents where the court has actually been complicit in stifling freedom of expression was that order which basically required Mutemi not to comment about IMF loans in any forum. It also asked him not to comment through any other person. This, in my opinion, is quite unnecessary, and it's also too punitive in terms of the state through the courts dictating what topics and what issues someone can talk about, and especially since it's been established that these are matters of public interest that had been expressed by many, I dare say thousands upon thousands of Kenyans through different social media accounts. Well, the other problematic thing, and perhaps which also lends credence to the problematic matter of the conduct of the judicial officer, is that the court also ordered that his social media accounts be suspended. And we all know that the state cannot order my Twitter or my Facebook account to be suspended. Twitter and Facebook have their own modalities of doing that, and they have their own community guidelines. But let's also just step a little back and think about what Mutemi was discussing. These were matters that were within the ambit of Article 33 of our Constitution, where every Kenyan is conferred the right to seek, receive, and impart information, regardless of frontiers and through any media. This right does not extend to certain things, does not extend to propaganda for war, incitement to violence, advocacy for hatred, among other things. Here we see a case where the court constructively and also the state have created their own limitations to freedom of expression that are outside the ambit of what was contemplated by the authors of the Constitution.
Dimas, there's something I want to ask you. You say you've mentioned the court, I understand that, and then you mentioned the state. Yeah. What evidence is there to show that indeed, as you have alluded, the state influenced this outcome? Because from what your colleague Gaki mentioned, it is this judicial officer has discretion. They have the leeway. So is it possible that we are dealing with the perception and the leeway that a particular individual has decided to bring to bear on this case, and that the state may not necessarily have influenced that outcome?
If you look at the order of events in this matter, is that Mutemi was arrested by DCI officers at the wee hours of the night. And then he was presented to court, and they applied for him to be held for 14 days as they conducted investigations. This means that the body that pushed or that triggered this order of events was actually the executive arm of government. And in fact, now we wonder that the judiciary is actually now becoming complicit in the limitation of rights of citizens of Kenya. And remember that the right of the public to participate in public decisions and public discourse is a principle of governance in Kenya. It is protected under Article 10, and it dictates that all levels of government allow Kenyans to participate in decision making. This issue is an issue where Mutemi Wakiyama is a taxpayer. In one way or another, he will pay for these loans. So he is directly affected by the IMF loans, and he should be able to speak about, converse, criticize this public borrowing that we're seeing in Kenya.
Dimas, can I ask you really quickly before you go to your next point? I just want a point of clarification. Here, when you talk about the fact that because he was arrested by DCI officers, is this clearly indicative that it was an order from the executive?
Well, the DCI normally is, as much as the National Police Service is independent, it is an appendage of the executive, especially when it comes to politically motivated arrests and sanctions.
Okay.
Yes.
So does that, just to jump a little bit off of that, does that mean that if anybody today, if CT, for example, makes a statement, for example, that is of some political nature that rubs somebody somewhere the wrong way, if, for example, he then were to be arrested by DCI officers, does that mean that they were acting under a direction
at the behest of
the executive?
Not necessarily. It just might be an overzealous person within the DCI who perhaps felt very strongly about what was discussed. We really have no evidence that a phone call was made or a wire was dispatched, to say the truth.
Okay.
But we have seen this before. We have seen Robert Alai, we've seen Cyprian Nyakundi, we've seen other online expression agents who have been arrested, especially when they spoke about certain people within society.
But by the same token, Dimas, we've also seen these very same courts issue edicts that would be considered at the very, very least to be anti-establishment. They have not favored the state in any way. So if we were to put these things alongside, would I be wrong in assuming that any time one of our our judicial system processes don't favor a certain thought process, then they're considered to be anti-freedom, and when they favor, then they are pro-freedom? Is it not possible that they could simply be following the law as they understand it?
Well, perhaps we should step a little back to see what decisions have been coming out of our court, especially since the passage of the new constitution. Initially, there were a lot of very progressive and very affirmative decisions when it comes to human rights, especially issues of freedom of expression. But these decisions usually emanate from the High Court, and they emanate from petitions which really converse on issues. For example, what Mutemi Wakiyama was arrested under, we suspect, is perhaps because he commented about a senior state officer in a certain way. But there was a petition by Robert Alai which declared undermining authority of a public officer unconstitutional. And basically, the court affirmed that citizens should be able to comment about leaders in an open and democratic society. And the comments might as well be critical of them. We have noticed that this edict or these judgments really do not cascade down to the magistrate court, where a lot of these abuses happen. So I am not saying that the judiciary is anti-right, but I'm saying this is an incident where the judiciary, in our view, is complicit in the muggling of fundamental human rights. That is something that is of wide public interest.
Okay. What are his rights? What are any Kenyan's rights right now as we're looking at it in terms of expression when we're talking about things like this? Let's look at this particular issue when a lot of people in the country were talking about, not being comfortable with the government rather, getting these further funds via the IMF. And I guess this is something that both of you can look at. Gaki, we start with you. What are his rights? What are anybody's rights when it comes to expressing themselves publicly about such matters?
So the first thing with regards to this IMF issue is that everybody has the right to access information on the process through which this decision to request for this loan was made. And if that information is not shared publicly, then people have a right to express themselves, to protest the failure of government to, give information, make information public, and make information public about the process through which the decision was reached. The people also have a right to publicly participate in such decisions that have significant economic impact on the country. So whenever someone feels or anybody feels really that they were not consulted or the public was not consulted, then they have a right to express themselves in that manner. They have a right to protest either online or offline to say, there was this process, we were not made aware of this process, and so we want to know. We also want to express our opinion, opposing that move, opposing that decision. So under Article 33 of the Constitution, every Kenyan has the right to express themselves on any issue whatsoever, and especially issues that pertain to public governance, including transparency and accountability issues.
Gaki, do you feel that then the DCI acted outside the purview of the functions that they are mandated by law to carry out?
Remember that the DCI is an independent body. So what we usually advocate for is that due process is followed. Mm-hmm. Of course, when you look at the turn of events, you can clearly see that there's likely a state hand in this. But, at the very best, due process must be followed. So, for instance, this application that they were making to detain Mutemi Kiama was completely unnecessary, It was just an attempt to continue denying him his liberty of movement further.
But Gaki, and remember if I may just interject, if you don't really mind. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I hear what you're saying, but then that is subjective. My question was actually very specific. Did the DCI act within the purview of them, their mandated functions? Did they do anything that is outside the purview of what they're expected to do?
So I would say that at the moment, nothing clearly can indicate that they went beyond their powers, because but the arrest that was made at night. Remember that you don't have to pinpoint, at the exact conduct, but a trend could point towards a violation. For instance, was it really necessary that he was arrested at night? And this is something that we have seen, where activists are arrested at night, so that they at least spend a night in the cells before they are arraigned the next day. So you can see a clear trend, that is meant to create fear in the public. So I would say it's not so much about pinpoint. It's about this trend and what it means to other people and what it means to the public generally,
If organizations such as yours, Article 19 or Amnesty International, and any other feel that the DCI then at some point goes beyond what they're supposed to do, would you take this case to court? Go basically to court and say, we feel that this independent office is overstepping its mandate or is curtailing people's freedoms?
Absolutely. Remember that you don't really have to show that a violation has taken place. So under our constitution, under Article 22, you are allowed to go to court if there is a threat. So it doesn't have to be a violation that has already materialized. Even the very threat of it through these trends that we have been seeing. Remember that Kiama also 10 months ago was arrested in a similar fashion, and eventually he was not charged. So if you can show a trend, which points to a violation or even a threat to violation of your rights, then you can go to court, and organizations such as ours at Article 19 Eastern Africa would go to court on that basis.
Why haven't you? Like you've said, this is not the first time that Mutemi Wakema has been arrested in this manner. It's not the first time that activists have been arrested in this manner. Why haven't Article 19 and Amnesty and others gone to court?
So remember that when you want to lodge a petition in the High Court, there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. So for instance, if it's such a case that, such as the one that we are discussing, remember that you have to join pieces together so that you can make an airtight case. So for us, actually, there's a pending petition that we want to lodge at the High Court of Kenya, a constitutional petition regarding these attacks on journalists and activists. And so it's a live issue, and we are currently in the process, and I'm sure we will be lodging the same in a few months' time.
All right. So we want to thank you very much for joining us and speaking to us this morning. And we'll be following up on this particular public interest case for Mutemi Wakema and any other activists. And your organizations, of course, are in the forefront in trying to secure justice on his behalf. Asante Nisana for speaking to us. Winfred Gaki is a program officer at Civic Space at Article 19. And Dimas Kiprono is a campaign manager at Amnesty International Kenya. Thank you and have a lovely day.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Asante sana. Taking a break now on KTN Home on SpiceFM. As we go into this break, just reminding you about Standard Jobs. This is a new portal by the Standard Media Group. Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. That's jobs.standardmedia.co.ke is a portal that where people who want to advertise for jobs can come in and advertise, and then those who are looking for jobs will be able to come in and see jobs that have been advertised. What the main features of this particular portal are. Number one, you can subscribe, register and subscribe for job alerts, which will be sent to you via email or via SMS. Anytime there's a job that fits your category comes in. So latest jobs that have been posted: sales executive, human resource consulting. It's a permanent job. Consultant job that has also been posted. Consultant optometrist. Mm-hmm. Yes. MCCCC, medical officer in charge, clinic lead. All these jobs, consultants, physiotherapists, the regional manager for a credit limited company, permanent job, all of them, jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Go and check them out and also subscribe so that you can be getting alerts on your SMS or email. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 87.9 Spice FM. Mombasa.
The case of Mutemi Wakema is clearly indicating that there's a thin line somewhere between expressing yourself and offending another party. And now, how do you know at what point you're offending somebody else, and how do you know at what point you're basically expressing a matter that affects you directly and is of public concern?
I mean, it looks like it's clear as mud here in terms of what you can or cannot say, in as much as there's freedom of expression. And then there's also the side where you have to really then err on the side of caution is how free am I to say then or express myself in the manner which I choose in a country where the state or anybody for that matter could be offended. That means you could say something in as much as you're free to say it. Somebody would take offense and then be able to take you to the state and make that complaint against you.
You know, the cases of libel are clear. You know, if I'm saying something that is completely insulting your character, you have a case. When I'm saying something that ties into your office and you're the person in that office, and I'm just saying, for example, no, let's not allow the Situation Room to continue broadcasting because Nduoko will come in and say something that is not good. And from this day on, I'm not going to be listening to the Situation Room because of Nduoko. And you feel offended, of course. But what wrong have I committed?
You know, the Bill of Rights doesn't exist because, or laws for that matter, don't exist because human beings are law-abiding. No. They exist because human beings, by their very nature,
break the law,
tend not to abide by laws. So, to have a check and balance, you create them. Now, Bill of Rights, there is nowhere on this planet where bills of rights are not challenged on a daily basis and that the debate about them doesn't occur. What is happening now, we are furthering our understanding of a Bill of Rights. We are furthering our understanding of the tolerance that is required by agencies that, for as long as they've existed, have existed to be intolerant towards these things. The ethos in many organizations in our country, especially security and those entrusted with the mandate of applying the law and enforcing it, it has been to be intolerant of such things. So the fact that you have a law doesn't mean that they are going to abide by it. No, they're going to abide by the norms that they're accustomed to. So even as we ourselves get accustomed to it, and do you know why I say this? We ourselves aren't very tolerant of rights that do not necessarily work for us.
Yeah, that's a human nature.
Yes. If your child came, let's give the child the age of, say, 10, 12. No, let's give them 12, just about to become adolescent. Comes and tells you, my dear parent, you are a hypocrite. Just an open statement. I wonder how many parents will just calmly say,
it's okay, let's talk about
let's discussion about it and tell you. If it was addressed to the father, what thoughts would go through that father's mind? Addressed to the mother, what thoughts would go through their mind? Would they readily accept it and say, you know, my child may have seen something in me that I need to address?
And I need to listen to him.
Yes.
Pana. Anyway, time for us to take a break, see what's happening on the roads. It's now 8 o'clock. Keep it right here. In the next hour, we speak with Equity Holdings Group MD and CEO, Mr. Dr. James Mwangi. Good morning.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, so we're still looking at some traffic action on Mombasa Road today, heading out into the city. It's actually quite slow, especially right around General Motors. It slows down again as you get past South Sea and then on towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. All right, let's look. Lunga Likoni coming from industrial area. That already is jam-packed this morning and moving very slowly as well. On to Jogo Road. And then out into the city via Landis Road, that also is slow. Thika Road behaving very well today. Not much in terms of traffic in and outbound, interestingly so. Coming off Kiambu Road also is not too bad. So that's what we see this morning. This is what a lay of the land looks like for now. And it's also slippery and wet in some parts. So please be very careful where you are coming from or going to. Shouldn't be too much difficult after that. But Mombasa Road is the one that's going to make the rest of the hand hurt because this one finger is throbbing with traffic today. All right, talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let us know what it looks like in your neck of the woods, if it's going to affect traffic in other parts, or if it's looking good and other people can use it. All right, 40127 is how you can text us as well.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain
good morning
times.
to you. 3 minutes past 8 o'clock, Kenya's biggest conversation continues. This is where we have a conversation each and every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. We are live on KTN Home until the top of the hour, as well as continuing the conversation on SpiceFM up to 10 a.m. CT. Today's proverb.
He who burns down his own house knows why ashes cost a fortune.
He who burns down his own house knows why
ashes cost a fortune.
Okay. At some point it had ashes.
Ashes. Ash. A-S-H. In this case, the S-H is not silent. It's ash, not us.
Cost a fortune.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Okay. So we're going to talk about, have a conversation shortly with Dr. James Mwangi. You all know Dr. James Mwangi. Who doesn't know Dr. James Mwangi in the country? He's the Group CEO of Equity Group Holdings and also the chairman of the Equity Group Foundation. The bank itself has an asset base of over 1 trillion shillings. It's the largest bank in Eastern Central Africa, not only on assets but by market capitalization and profitability based on the full year 2020 results, which were released just the other day. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the bank purposefully opted to safeguard and cushion the lives of staff, clients, and host communities by supporting lives and livelihoods with a number of interventions. We'll be talking about those interventions, but also looking at the life and career of Dr. James Mwangi, man who went into Equity Building Society, transformed it into Equity Bank, listed it in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Now it's its largest bank in Eastern Central Africa. What does it take to run such an institution, number one? And then, what is it that now comes into having the human face of such a big corporation? Remember, during this COVID-19 period, like we've said, Equity was instrumental and it has been participating in doing a lot of supporting the host communities in lives and livelihoods. Dr. James Mwangi himself and his family also came in during this time and donated. He's also a member of what we call here on this show, the Harambee Committee on COVID-19. It's a board that was set up by the president, chaired by EABL MD, and it includes members such as Dr. James Mwangi and other corporate titans, captains of industry. Dr. James Mwangi himself has been given a couple of accolades. He was honored in the 2019 Bloomberg 50 list. This is an honorary list of 50 innovators, entrepreneurs, and leaders who have impacted the global business landscape in measurable ways. He was lauded for his contribution in steering Equity Bank to have presence in the greater Central and Southern African region, honored alongside environmental activist Greta Thunberg, New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, CNN President and Warner Media Chairman Jeff Zucker, singer and entrepreneur Rihanna, among others. He was also given the 2020 Oslo Business for Peace Award. The honorees are chosen by a prestigious award committee consisting of past Nobel Prize winners in peace economics. What they said about him is Dr. Mwangi receives the award for his business-worthy values in championing financial inclusion for all in Eastern Central Africa. He has helped achieve a social revolution by bringing banking services to people who previously had limited access to them, bolstering Kenya's GDP. Dr. Mwangi is an exceptional entrepreneur and a humanitarian. The committee sees him as a shining example of how business leaders can accelerate change and help solve the world's problems. This was according to the founder of the Oslo Business for Peace Awards, Per Saksegard. Now, this is somebody who, and we talk about this a lot of times, people who individually do something to impact and bring change. People who, of course, during the course of that, they go through a lot. people not believing, you get all these challenges, you get the naysayers, you get saboteurs, you survive, you live through it, and you still have that human heart.
Well, I mean, I think you can see that very clearly in that the work that you do on a professional level, if it's done right, it's either that it influences your personal life, or if you do it right on the personal, then it also influences on the professional. And you can't really run away from the two. If you're doing it in a negative manner, then you would see the results of that. If you're doing it in a positive way, there too, you would also see the results of the same thing. And then the question is often asked then, if that can translate on a personal level and show through so positively, then why can't it also on a professional level? Why can't it then at a national level?
One of the things we've discussed in this show often is how financial institutions, the financial institutions we normally refer to as banks, often by their policies and the way they go about their business, give the impression they're not really in touch with what their customers and the base of their success actually want, or what it is that would favor them. Well, there are those who've argued perhaps some of them have an external influence and that they're branches of international banks and so forth. But even banks that are local, that has been a finger that has been pointed at them, that they are not really in touch. And one of the things that I have seen, because I've followed over time the progression of Equity and what they did, it is actually a pleasant thing to come across a bank that actually does what they say they're going to do. It's a very, very pleasant thing. Because when you look at the mandate that began with the formation of the building society to look after the focus on people who are less disadvantaged in society, and then you look at the bank, again, the focus was on that. People who are less disadvantaged. How do you get to them and how do you ensure that they benefit? The bank is going to benefit, yes, but how do these people also benefit from the banking sector? And I think if we were to look at the success, I think they didn't waver from that particular mandate. They understood the Kenyan, the need of the Kenyan the bulk of the Kenyan who actually need such services and is often not well served. And in having met it, I think the rewards that have come to them should be the subject of a study as to how it is you benefit immensely when you partner with people who are actually at the very core of your business.
Pet subject of yours.
This is a pet subject of mine because we have a government that doesn't seem to understand this thing. No.
It could be really simple, CT, and maybe we'll hear from him. It could be really simple that you see a problem, you have a plan as to how you can fix it, and then you don't just do the plan and present it for everybody to see, but you actually implement it and you make sure that it works. You're bound to see the results. It's not magic. To me, it's a simple formula of 1 + 1 = 2. But here we have an example of actually doing the legwork.
Isn't it puzzling that this simple thing that is so easy to understand is so not understood?
Some people invert that plus.
Yes.
You just put 1 × 1. Result?
0.
1.
In this case, in some cases, it's minus. Negative.
It's just no change. Let's bring in Dr. James Mwangi, the CEO of Equity Group Holdings and chairman of the Equity Group Foundation. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning, Eric. How is the situation room?
The room is warm. How is the room that you're in?
Not as warm as the situation room. I wish I had.
Indeed, we'd have really loved to have you here. What we do whenever we have a guest in the studio, we give them the seat and we warm it up a little bit. We call it the hot seat. Now, what we're going to do with yours is just from remote control, we'll just warm yours a little bit.
That's really kind of you.
Let's just warm you up into the conversation. We're talking about, we'll be looking at the work that you have done, you individually as Dr. James Mwangi, and you with the organization Equity Group Holdings in supporting the communities, especially during this time of COVID-19. But for us to get there, let's just start with the thinking behind engaging the communities that you came in. When you moved into Equity, it was Equity Building Society then. And then, you started that whole conversation of opening up the doors and saying, let people come, bring your money, let's open up accounts for you. What was the thinking that you had then?
The thinking is mobilizing for a cause. And essentially what I thought is that I could provide leadership in championing a cause among the people. So equity eventually became a movement of people who were aspiring to improve their lives, to change their lives, to acquire and to live dignified lives, and at the same time fight the adversity that confronted them most, which was poverty, the ability to meet obligations like sending their children to school, acquiring and housing, and hence we created a purpose which is changing lives, giving dignity, and supporting people to create wealth and opportunities. So essentially, it became a movement of the people themselves. And essentially what I simply do is then to provide leadership in the movement. And that is why all our followers call themselves members. Don't say they are customers.
You used the word there, Dr. that's very interesting. You said you simply provided leadership. And for me also, and then I said that just before we started, that it seems like a very simple thing to do, that you had an idea, you wanted to put back or even introduce dignity in the lives of people who maybe couldn't ever afford, wouldn't even dream of putting the few shillings that they had in a bank. 1, 2, wouldn't ever think of affording a credit facility to start a business, to own a home, anything like that. And you say you simply provided this leadership. How?
You notice that our African societies are organized in a social way. And if you look at Equity Bank, it is more social than economic. And that is why it is membership, it's aspirations of dignity, it's aspirations of well-being, it's our aspiration of changing lives. You can see it's not defined in economic terms. So we really spotted social challenge within society. And Audrey, as a strategist, said social problem can be solved by an economic engine, but everything else is social. And that is why if you look at equity broadly, it may be more known, the brand is more known, for instance, with the Wings to Fly kids. It's now getting more known with Equity Afia, getting more known with financial literacy and entrepreneurship training, because it's about each individual member fulfilling their dream and aspiration. And all that we do is to enable, is to allocate capability to individuals pursue their personal dreams and aspirations. And then the aggregate of all those dreams make equity. It sounds simple.
Yes.
It does.
You make it sound simple. Yes. But tell us, how difficult actually has it been?
It's very difficult because we, as Africans, were expected to copy and paste Western models and assume that that is what is good for us. But when we started equity, only 4% of our people could get access to financial services. So we were excluded. And so we concluded that the models that were then available were not suitable and fit for purpose for us as a community and as a society. And then we asked ourselves, how has financial services been? And if you look, when I was growing up, my late mother Grace had an account with a shopkeeper. She took her shopping on credit and only paid when she was paid her milk at the end of the month. An agency is formalization of that shopkeeper little shop banking that our people were used to. And we have essentially mystified the banking. And if you look today, 98% of all our transactions happen outside the branch. Our people are more used to going to an agent within the village, and they talk the layman's language. We don't complicate things. So banking is like sugar or salt at the village level. So that ability to demystify banking and take our traditional setup as a platform for advancing society. We can improve, but we improve from who we are. Don't copy other civilizations wholesale because they were never designed, the models were never designed for us. And that is what differentiates equity. And that was what is complex. And that is what every other bank has tried to mimic, but they have not been able to, because they just see the outside. They don't understand the cultural thing. This is about relationship with the people. This is about emotions. And so culture plays a very important aspect, because we have society's culture as business culture.
But as you've moved outside Kenya into the other countries that Equity now operates in, have you gone to first understand the culture locally there? Is it any different from the Kenyan culture of this particular lady who sells a shop or who sells her milk? Is it different across the region?
Absolutely different. You have to customize, you have to adapt, and you have to integrate with the way of life of the people. We've just talked about agents. If you go to Tanzania, they will call it wafukara. If you go to Uganda, they call it duka. So you have to really understand the norms and the ethos of the society, and really build on top of that. You don't impose your will on the people.
Do you think this, what you've described, which has worked very well as a business model for Equity, and you're saying others are trying to copy, but they just don't understand it inside and out, do you think this can also be replicated in governance, in national governance, in leadership, in seeing how best do I move my people from where we are right now to a new level as a people?
Absolute. I think it is not just about banking. Banking is really professional. When it comes to governance, we need to follow and borrow strictly from our structures that we understand, that we believe in, that we own, that we have pride in. And that then creates ownership and passion for people to pursue and to follow. So there is much we can go back. It's exactly like even medicine. When we were growing up, there were a lot of herbs. I have now come to realize that those were medicinal herbs that we then have modernized their use by extracting the content therein and making tablets and capsules out of it. But we then displaced our medicinal herbs for tropical diseases. We had grown with those herbs, we had adapted to them, they were part of us, and we condemned them and took up to other medicinal herbs from other societies, which we had not acclimatized, we had not grown into, and consequently we find the tropical diseases are now the most preference because we know the source of medicinal value.
One of the things that has been said often about the ordinary Kenyan who interacts with the banking system is that they are not good at paying back their loans. They are good at borrowing and they are happy to borrow, but when it comes to paying it back, there is usually a problem. How has your institution tackled this? And is it actually true? Or is it just something, is a figment of someone's imagination?
Our experience has been very different. At the peak, we had 1.5 million customers, constituting 42% of all loans in the country. And if you look even to date, while the non-performing loan book in the banking industry is about 14.5, Equity is still at 11-12%. It has the bulk of the loans. Most of the loans are from those we can describe having low incomes. They come from rural communities, but yet they have a better paying record than the other banks. So I don't think it is about the people not being able to pay. How we structure the product, we don't match them with the income streams. Loans are supposed to help bridge gaps in income streams, the flow of income streams, and match them with the expenditure patterns. So if you create a mismatch by imposing a product on the people, it's not the people who are not willing to pay. It is simply you have made them not being able to pay because you have mismatched their cash flow. If you look at, for instance, tea farmers, we control about 68% of all small-scale tea farming banking in this country. But we only make a one loan repayment when they get their bonus. Or you don't keep on taking repayment on monthly basis. So the design determines the ability of the customer to pay. We don't pay by we, pay by cash flow. And that is how you need to understand the cash flow of the borrower. The products appropriate.
It sounds like magic, Doctor. It sounds like something that would, unless you were to hear it the way you explained it, is something that would never be possible ever. That it is the ability of the people that's taken into consideration when you're making a commercial decision like this.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's rocket science, and yet so simple. Let's go to a break, Dr. James Mwangi. When we come out of this break, we'll look at, that basic thinking. Why is it that it actually stands out from one financial institution and not from the others? It's a difficult one. Dr. James Mwangi is the Group MD and CEO of Equity Group Holdings. He is also the chairman of Equity Group Foundation. We're having a conversation with him this morning, looking at the man, the banking entrepreneur, and the philanthropist. When we come back, we'll also now focus a lot more on the philanthropy that the Equity Group has actually been involved in, and also Dr. James Mwangi himself as a person. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, 25 minutes after 8. We are live on KTN Home, we are live on SpiceFM, and we're also live online. We'll be back shortly with Dr. James Mwangi.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, SpiceFMKE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique. The official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
We've been all through it, We go to school, study hard, get the much-deserved grades, and celebrate our graduation. Then reality hits us. We get to the job market and we simply don't know where to start off. Thankfully, by visiting jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, your next career breakthrough could be a click away. Get the best in career advice, employment opportunities, internships, part-time jobs, CV writing, and interview coaching. Give your career the much-needed lift on jobs.standardmedia.co.ke.
Have you seen the... Am I live?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say.
Thank you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me, what channel is Spice FM?
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
you.
What
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you. And it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, so we're still looking at
Spice
cloudy
up your
conditions
life.
in Nairobi and showers through and through. Highs of 18 and highs of 23 and lows of 17 today. Light rain in Nyeri at 16. We'll see highs of 23, lows of 14. Highs of 25 in Nakuru. Mostly cloudy conditions right now at 18. It's sunny in Eldoret at 17. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 13. 27 will be the high in Kisumu, where it's mostly cloudy at 21. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kakamega at 21 as well. Go to highs of 26 and lows of 15. 31 the high in Mombasa, light rain at 27. It's also raining in Malindi at 28, highs of 31, lows of 27, and mostly sunny in Kampala at 24. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 20. Rain showers in Dar es Salaam at 25. We'll go to highs of 30 today. 17 and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 25 and lows of 13. We'll see highs of 33 in Lagos. It's raining now at 26 and coming down to lows of 27. Mostly sunny conditions in Kinshasa at 24. Looks like the sun will shine for most parts of today. Highs of 32, lows of 24.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
That spillover onto Langata is actually not looking too good right around the Bomas junction. Headed towards Rongai and then out towards Karen. There's a bit of a hold up right there at the interchange, but it's then flowing smoothly past KWS and slows down a little bit again around the T-Mall roundabout. Bagadi Way is not so bad. Bumper to bumper in some parts, but moving clearly through until Valley Road. Should be okay using that. Mombasa Road, on the other hand, is a no-no. It is jam-packed, outbound, and it's raining as well. So you can imagine what it looks like right now. If you don't have to be on Mombasa Road, don't. You can use Southern Bypass to get into the city centre. All through to Nyeri Stadium roundabout, through Huru Highway, into the city. As usual, we're going to see traffic situations probably for an hour or so more. Keep an eye on that. Let us know also if you might be stuck anywhere. Give us an alternative. We'll be very happy to take it. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life.
It's 8:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Each and every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., we are live on Spice FM. We are live online. And for 2 hours every weekday morning, we are live on KTN Home. In the room with you is Ndu Oko, C.T. Muga, and Eric Latif. Joining us on the line is Dr. James Mwangi, Group CEO and MD of Equity Group Holdings, and also the Chairman of Equity Group Foundation, talking about the man, the banking entrepreneur, and also the philanthropist. Dr. Mwangi, as we were going to the break, Ndu was, perplexed, and we were all perplexed here when you said, look, you've got to tailor your product according to your client. And for example, saying you control the biggest chunk of smallholder tea farmers in the country who go into banking, and the products that you came up with for them are looking at their own cash flow. This sounds simple. Like you said, some of these things, when we see them, they sound simple, but the thinking behind it has actually been very, very considered. Now, this kind of thinking, CT.
Actually, I have so many things I want to ask at the same time, so I'm trying to package them so that I actually ask what I want to ask into one. That thinking comes from a lot of research, a lot of thinking, a lot of consulting, and a lot of fact-finding. Dr. Mwangi, would I be wrong in assuming that you have a very serious research setup, and that you have a very serious think tank that is part and parcel of this research, and that you also you're not that risk averse? Should we say you're risk informed, and that the decisions that you make arise from, should we say, a well-informed source?
I think, Muga, you are spot on. It's very informed because we involved the members through focused group discussions. So we have very good people leading the conversations, a research team that leads the conversations to try and find what the needs are
how the client would like the products to be designed, the fitment, the environment in which they are being offered. So it is that ability to integrate the customer, involve the customer, and put the customer in the driver's seat. That approach requires humility to appreciate that you can't know the needs and aspirations of a customer better than them. And so the best way to get it right is to involve the customer themselves. And that is where then the strength of research becomes important.
Unfortunately, last year, a lot of things happened, especially with COVID. But at the same time, it presented a brilliant opportunity for you as a bank, as an institution, as an individual, to then be able to display some of the same things you've talked about now on a national level when it came to rallying support for Kenyans who then would have been affected because of the effects of COVID-19. How did this all work out? Why do you think you were called to sit on what we call in this room the Harambee Committee? Why do you think you were called upon to sit there? And how then were you able to make this work?
I think I may not be able to speak eloquently as to why I was called into Harambee, but I guess the fact that as an industry captain, and it was a call to the private sector to partner with the government, that might have given me a seat on the table. But I also guess that the 30 years that we have been learning equity has created a demonstration that we have overcome a lot of challenges. We started when equity was technically insolvent. It was ranked number 66 out of 66. And by the time the call was coming, it was the year that we ended up emerging the largest bank in Eastern Central Africa in terms of balance sheet, in terms of profitability, in terms of customer base and market capitalization in the Nairobi Stock Exchange. So people would guess we could have something to offer. But what then surprised us is when I was given the opportunity by the board members to chair the health committee of the board. And given the problem was a health issue, and I was a banker, I realized they were not looking for technical skills. They were looking for leadership, demonstrated leadership, somebody bold and courageous to confront the issue, to rally the people, and to serve selflessly, and somebody who has the capacity to involve others. And I'm glad that we called them a DIT and said, this is a medical issue. Each of the medical associations, whether it's the nurses, whether it's the clinical officers, the doctors themselves, the Kenya Association of Medical Practitioners, each gave their president or chairman to our committee as a technical team. And so it's like we rallied the country. When we then said, let's distribute the PPEs to the hospitals, there was no dispute that the best way was to create a second line of defense. If a personal line of defense is infringed and people get infected, there is a hospital and a doctor ready to admit. So I think it's that ability to rally. And hopefully also the 15 million customer base of equity might have given the suggestion that our customer base would rally around my leadership.
But you also, as an individual, as a family, gave a huge amount in terms of contributions to us. And this was made public. It was not a secret about what you offered. Why did you do that?
I think this is a 1 in 100 year situation. And I had the privilege of studying 18 pandemics over the last 1,800 years. And essentially, pandemics in history has had a trail of devastating effects. And I felt I was very privileged. I'm a creation of society. I remember do as I was born into a humble family, lost my father as a toddler, was left with my widowed mother, Grace, with my 6 other siblings. She had not gone to formal school. So I would say if it was not the support of the public, I would not be who I am. And this offered me an opportunity to also pay back to society or make a contribution to protect society. We have seen the plague of the 14th century. It wiped out almost 60% of European population. It wiped almost 90% of the population in Mexico. And we felt that if this pandemic would be like those ones, one would forever feel guilty if they had the capability to support and failed to support. None of us was safe. And so devoting resources to save society. After all those resources have been given by society. So my wife, Jane, and the children were very willing and glad to sign off the 450 million shillings, 300 million given to Kenya, 500 to Rwanda, 500 to DRC. We were glad to give because we felt we were giving back to the community that had given us a chance to create that wealth. And that wealth would have been useless and valueless if community didn't survive.
Were you satisfied with the way in which it was disbursed? Were you satisfied with what you heard or maybe didn't hear in terms of how Kenyans were helped at the time with these contributions, whether it was from money you gave towards the fund or whether it was nationally collected? Were you satisfied with how Kenyans were helped?
I was part of the board, and in total we raised funds and both in cash and in kind of up to 2.7 billion shillings. And out of that amount of money, much of it was given out to support communities that were in the first 5 months of the devastation. And the COVID fund dedicated 300 million. But Equity Group, my family, Equity Bank, and MasterCard, we had raised 1.1 billion. And I must be honest, I was responsible for the 1.4 billion shillings. I'm really satisfied with how we spent that money. That money never left Equity Group Foundation. It's in the account of Equity Group Foundation. We spent it from there. And to date, we have only spent 600 million out of 1.4 billion shillings. So we still have money to support the health system for another 1.5 years, as long as that support is required. We give regularly on monthly basis a stock of PPE to the 68 hospitals that were adopted. And I'm glad, given that we have those resources, this month we are extending the support to all mission-based hospitals. About 36 hospitals from the Catholic Church and another one 32. In total, 72 hospitals. That we think, because the pandemic has reached the third crisis, or the third wave seems to be a crisis wave, we felt we should spread the support to community level so that the church becomes a partner in fighting the core. So, yes, every cent can't be accounted for, but I think the greatest pride I have is the decision we made that we are not going to fall into the trap of middlemen between us and manufacturers. And we said we'll pay one for socio-psycho support to the medical doctors. We didn't need just to physically protect them, but we needed to protect them psychologically from fear, from depressionary tendencies because of experiences, case management because they hadn't managed such a case, and that we gave them 5 million shillings. And we paid, and that system we have built will last, that 85 will last for 2 years, training and building. The rest of the money we got Mackenzie, the Ministry of Industrialization and Trade, and we conducted training to 106 local manufacturers. Those manufacturers now produce everything that we provide to the hospitals. The surprising thing is that the first request bids we received, a coverall was costing us 9,000 shillings. We are now able to manufacture a better high-quality coverall at only 650 shillings. And that is why this money will be able to go much further, because we have reduced the cost by 90%. We're just paying less than 10% of what the prices are. Those prices are available now to all the private hospitals in this country. They are available to individuals. So it's set, and that is why the money could last for up to 2.5 years, because we were able to beat the greed of capitalism, a greed that wanted to make money out of a pandemic, multiplying prices more than 10 times.
Dr. Mwangi, I am smiling outwardly, and I'm also smiling in my heart as I listen to this. But the thing that has made me smile the most is the support that you have offered for psychosocial support. Now, have you perhaps considered, are you considering, are you doing, or have you thought of offering the same psychosocial support to the security forces? Because they are an arm of this government that are the hardest hit, because all the ripple effects that you hear from COVID and what amounts, somewhere along the line, the police force will come into contact with these things. If somebody dies, there's a body that has been chopped up and left in some bush, the police will come across this. And if you look at what has been in the media, and there's a preponderance of a lot of harm, very adverse effects that happen to people in the police force. And a lot of this can be attributed to mental health. Has your organization considered perhaps supporting this group of individuals?
Thank you very much, Eric. And it's amazing that...
Dr. This Eric is actually called Muga.
Sorry, Muga. Muga, it's interesting, Muga, you bring this issue, because yesterday we set a panel to discuss that framework. Part of our solution, we felt we could complement the government by launching Equity Afia. Equity Afia, we scaled it from 5 clinics last year. Now we have 40 clinics being run by doctors. And we realized the biggest need that Kenyans are coming to Equity Afia for is stress, is depression, is mental illness. And we felt that this was a national crisis. And maybe it's because this pandemic, because it's unknown, we don't know how to handle the fear that if you are contaminated, you get it and you might die. I think it is causing too much stress that has gone into mental unwellness. I think as a nation, we need to change our attitude towards mental health and stop stigmatizing people. Mental health is not madness, the way we typically describe it. And that is where the biggest challenge is. So people who get mental health challenges don't get support. We have not specialized in that line. And the only national hospital we have, we even call it Mazare Mental Hospital. And you can see how stigmatized, even at the level of naming the institution that deal with that disease. So we felt we could create the same platform, and that's what we are working on. Ask the same doctors that are hosting the socio-psycho support to have an open one, not just for the security forces, not our armed forces, but extend it to Kenyans, because it is the people who are dealing with isolated patients. A patient who is at home, but you can't share a room with them, and that trauma, given we are very social community, that trauma of isolation is causing a lot of mental stress. And COVID might not even be the biggest problem we'll have to deal with at the end of the day. is the mental stress and the mental illness that it has caused in our society. And so it needs to be urgently addressed. And as Equity Group Foundation, we have chosen to champion that cause.
Some things come changing even with this COVID. And as you were talking about the fact that, look, you've set aside this money, it is clear that what you were getting things for at the beginning of this pandemic, you can get them for much cheaper. That's why you still have this kitty that you can run back to and continue to provide the support. Things change as we go along. Just the other day, we had a conversation with Dr. Tinge from AMREF, and he told us that one of the things that they're seeing that they need now are oximeters, because people are dying at a quicker rate because they get to hospital and their oxygen levels are very low, but these are not available. Is your way of operation such that you can pivot around when it comes to a need that there is? Because there's a need for that now. Is it something that you'll be able to consider and say, these are things that we can provide very, very cheap? We have the funds to do so. Can we do it now that we see that it's a need that's there? People presenting themselves to hospital dying at a quicker rate because they've not been able to see what their oxygen levels are before that. Is it something that you would say, all right, look, we can move on into this area as well?
I think we can say we are very lucky that we are part of a national initiative. I remember Equity Group Foundation pledged all the 1.1 billion to Kenya National COVID board. And so if the board makes that decision, and we have seen that flexibility in the board. But also, we work very closely with the Ministry of Health. And it's the Ministry of Health that gives us the priorities that need to be addressed. So there is an opportunity there to put our heads together, government, the FAD and Equity Group Foundation, and change the priorities. Some are a little bit more complex than others. And the last one, Bill might say, is also we are complementing the government. Remember, we are not trying to replace the government. So the government will also say, yeah, why don't deal with the recurrent costs, and we can deal with the expenditure from budget. That's how we had come around, because we could have been confronted with the issue of the beds. But when we started with the government, we realized the most important thing was to defend the doctor, guarantee the doctor is protected, because then he'll be available for every Kenyan. And we didn't know how long this challenge will be. We realized today that, yes, we have the vaccine, but it may take another 2 years before every Kenyan has had an opportunity to be vaccinated.
Dr. Mwangi, the COVID Fund Board, what we call the Harambee Board, is made up of captains of industry, people from the private sector, people who deal with the people. One of the things that you know about groups of people is information is very important, especially when it comes to raising money. One of the questions that we keep asking ourselves here on this show is, okay, so this Harambee Fund, they've been asking us to donate. If I go to their website, there's a big button there that says donate now. What are they doing with the money that they have received? Now, it's very encouraging to hear what you've been doing and the plans that you have and the thinking behind everything else. But the question is, why don't you communicate this to the people whom you've gotten money from as often and as clearly as it should be?
Thank you very much. A question of transparency. And that is really at the heart of the private sector. As you rightly said, the captain industry are people, majority of us are from the banking industry. Trust is important, not just to be earned, but to be maintained. And that as a result, what we did was on the same website, we created the spreadsheets of the amounts that we have collected and amount we spent. But as I said, we allocated out of the 2.7 billion shillings, 1.4 billion shillings was dedicated to PPEs. 500 million was dedicated to safety net support. That is the stipend that we were giving those in the informal sector at the beginning. and the balance was in kind and was distributed to the needy in form of food. So the number has always been disclosed. We received the money the first 3 months, and since then the flow of money has not been steady. So, and that is why I can broadly say about the amount we received and how it was allocated. And the only amount that has not been spent is the money for the health fund. That is the one for our PPEs, because we determined that the doctors will need to be supported for a minimum period of 3 years. And as you heard, we are confident we have money to support them all the way for up to 2.5 years. And that is where the issue of reassigning. We have made a commitment, we have made a promise that we can't break, and that is why the assignment of that money has been a challenge.
Understood. Now, Dr. Mwangi, we'd love to have another conversation with you to look at the number of things that you have done personally, the legacy that you leave in this country, that you have created in the country. You've been chairman of the Vision 2030 Delivery Board. You're now participating in addressing COVID-19 response and everything else that you're doing. And we haven't even touched the biggest thing that you also do for the community, and this is the Wings to Fly program, which is really commendable. It has helped very many people. So allow us to invite you again this time to look at now Wings to Fly, look at governance, look at what else we can do as a country.
Deeply appreciated, and I have now a good experience of the situation room and the conversation. And I hope when you invite me, you make space for me in the room also.
Absolutely.
So that I can have the fun that you seem to enjoy. But let me say that the topics you have picked are very, very central. When I was named the team leader of Kenya Vision 2030, the economy was just $10 billion or 1 trillion shillings in terms of GDP. Today, we are slightly over 10 trillion shillings or $100 billion. We have grown 10 times. And I think it is important to share with that, to inspire our fellow Kenyans, to encourage Kenyans that we are making progress, because it is more about the mindset. And the second thing is about encouraging Kenyans to position themselves for the trickle-down effect of that transformation. So I greatly appreciate that. And it will give me an opportunity, particularly on the Wings to Fly. I think maybe in the next 1 month, we'll be giving 10,500 scholarships. And so it will be very good for us to talk about it, so that the entire nation and need the children understand, so that none of them is left behind before applying for the scholarship.
Asante sana. How is the seat now? We warmed it up nicely for you.
Oh, yes. This is a lovely conversation.
Thank you
very much.
To have been involved today.
Asante sana. Dr. James Mwangi, Group CEO and MD, Equity Group Holdings, and Chairman, Equity Group Foundation. Speak to you again soon, sir.
Thank you, sir.
5 minutes to 9 o'clock. Kenya's biggest conversation continues on Spice FM. We are now saying goodbye to our audience on KTN Home, but you can switch over to Spice FM 97.7 if you're in Malindi. Eldoret is 96.7. Nakuru 96.0. Nyeri 90.9. 102.5 in Kisumu. 87.9 in Mombasa. And Nairobi is 94.4.
Spice FM, Nyeri. Spice FM. Spice up your life.
When you speak to such captains of industry, and look, he says 30 years ago, when we were Equity Building Society, we were technically insolvent. 30 years down the road, we are the biggest bank in the region, not just in the country, in the region. And not just on one, on customer base, no, on market capitalization, on balance sheet, on
my friend,
anything that you want to put, we are number one.
Winning international awards for something that is really heartwarming. Innovation.
Imagine.
You know, when we're in school, and then oftentimes when you're taught a certain thing, and they want to give you practical examples of how it played out, right? Case studies. Now, I think this would be a great case study in the Kenya School of Government, and then leadership. You see how things work. That you have a problem, you have a plan. You have implementation and execution. See how you can get things from 0 to, in this case, 10 in a very short period of time. Over and over. Because there's nothing. Look, I don't think that there's anything different that they're doing in year 10 than they were doing in year 1. And why do I say this? Because it is repetitive action that you know has worked. So why reinvent the wheel? You know it has worked. So now you're doing it for a certain number of people or entities in year 1. You're now doing it for many more in year 10, but you're implementing in the same manner in which you did in year 1. Sure, trends are changing, but you're resolute in action. You do it. We've been made to believe that these things are impossible to do. Here's an example that it
Believe me, case studies have been done. Because
unfortunately, is by like international universities.
Kenyan
School of
solution.
Government.
Kenya School of Government. Kenyan solution. Daniel Arap Moi told Kenyans that we need African solutions to African problems. Here's a brilliant example of one right here.
Actually, we've had local individuals, University of Nairobi. Look, this level of success cannot avoid research.
That's what I'm telling you now. This is one that can be used, actually. This is one right here. That
if
can
you're
be
talking
used.
about local solutions, how it is, and the benefit derived from it. Yes, I know this is, in my case, duck to water, saying, you see, it works. Okay? Somebody bothered to find out what is needed, and then had the courage to dive in and say, okay, fine, why don't we run with this and see how it goes? And it has gone, isn't it?
Kabisa. It has gone. It really is out there. So Dr. James Mwangi, boss at Equity, is somebody who is very well known. And you know what he is in terms of national honors? He's a chief of the Order of the Burning Spear. Okay? That is a second tier, my friend. There's a golden heart.
How many people have that golden heart?
Let me just tell you, any leader, governor, first-term governor is an EGH. You're a leader of minority in parliament, you're an EGH. Dr. James Mwangi is whatever he is, he's a CBS.
Therein lies an anomaly, don't you think?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Good morning, it's 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Okay, so there is traffic still on Mombasa Road. There's a way that you can beat the traffic on Mombasa Road, and this is because the commuter rail was added to your schedule from Kitengela, and it's fantastic. 100 shillings, and you can commute from Kitengela to the city, and you don't have to be in Mombasa Road traffic. Isn't that great? So people have started using it already. Today, and so we can continue from there, isn't it? I think it's good. However, if you're not on the train, that means you're on Mombasa Road right now, and you're stuck. You've been stuck for a while. I'm sorry. It's going to be that way for a few more hours, unfortunately. So there are ways to avoid the longer Mombasa Road. Use Taj Mahal, go Outer Ring, or use the Southern Bypass, the longer way into the CBD. Everywhere else seems to be flowing not too badly right now, coming off Thika Road, coming off Joko Road, through Landis into the CBD, coming out of Westlands, all looks pretty good. Let's try and keep it that way, shall we? But for now, in case you get stuck somewhere or you find a good route that we can use, talk to us on SpiceFM KE 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Here from John Deuri Gashambi. He says, John Deuri Gashambi says, hello and good morning. This is John Deuri, former DEKUT president. Very few people know that I'm a product of Wings to Fly scholarship under the leadership of James Mwangi. At least it's a testimony that even the poor can rise up and lead at whatever capacity.
Hey, super.
That's a nice one.
It is.
Absolutely.
That's a nice one. And John, you know, now, to whom much is given, much is also expected. So, John Deuri Gashambi, it'll be expected that at some point in your life, somebody will say, I got the support from John Deuri Gashambi. City, let's talk about burning houses.
Indeed, Eric. He who burns down his own house knows why ashes cost a fortune.
He who burns down their own house knows why ashes cost a fortune.
They should, shouldn't they?
So metaphorically speaking, if we talk about political houses, if you touch down,
you've got it. See, observe.
What am I observing?
The man has got it at last.
Oh, okay. You're here. That thing that he was having a
that
problem
thing
with
he
a
didn't
couple
get.
of hours ago.
Somehow the penny has dropped.
Yeah, the ducks
He
will fall
has
in line
now
at some point.
got it.
Okay. The chickens have come home too?
The chickens have come home to daddy.
Wow. Okay.
verily, verily. So, the headlines in the papers this morning, The Nation has this big one. Ruto meets Raila man.
I'm telling you. I can even hear the music.
Can you imagine your name is Oparanya? Right? You're Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya, two-term governor, former cabinet minister, CPA, K.
This is a serious achiever.
And then someone calls you Raila man.
Raila
Ruto meets Raila man. A potentially huge political undertaking is on the cards following talks between the deputy president and ODM deputy leader Wycliffe. In fact, now let's even say you are the deputy leader of a large party called ODM, but you're born called Raila man. An alliance was supposedly suggested. The Standard, the New Look Standard, has the same headline, Ruto Oparanya in secret night talks. Deputy President Ruto and Kakamega Governor Oparanya hold a 9-hour meeting in Narok just a day after a group of politicians allied to ODM leader Raila Odinga met to craft a new alliance. What's cooking? Ting, 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 ting. A fountain of wisdom in this uncertain political times. C.T. Muga, please tell us.
Okay, do you want the fountain to talk to you or do you want C.T. Muga to talk to you?
I want the fountain to talk to CT. I'll just be eavesdropping.
You know, as you're reading this, I was thinking, you see, we have now officially concretized it. Anytime people meet at night, one, it is secretive, okay? And anything that is said can only thereafter be uttered in whispers, okay? The thing is, there's a bit of an anomaly there. Anything that is political can only be whispered metaphorically. The truth of the matter is political issues are shouted out. The problem is not the shouting out, it's when they're shouted out. Within the realms of possibility, if you look at our political landscape, you have a president who is on his way out. He is leaving, he has said he will go. What he will do thereafter, we haven't talked about. That is whispered. But we'll eventually talk about it loudly because he is too young to simply bow out and not be in the political setup. Now, I may say this and people say, what do you mean? I'm saying this is the youngest president we've ever had, and he's retiring at an age when many people aspire to become presidents. So he's not going to retire in the sense that people think he's going to retire. So then, you have this supposed whispered at night in Narok discussion about possibilities of the deputy president and his party and ODM working together. I don't understand why the Teteng movement is, because this was always a possibility. It was always a possibility. If you look at the coalitions we've had in the past, there's always some element of improbability when you see those people getting together, and then it becomes a reality. Start with 2002. Start with the time when Raila walked out of KANU, right? What was cobbled up and then became a coalition seemed unlikely at a certain point in time, because some of the people who formed that coalition had been part of KANU, and you believed there were fundamental structures within KANU. And they left. And they joined up with the unlikely person that you would have thought they would group up with, called Raila Odinga. But it happened. Those unlikely scenarios are in our minds. For politicians, they're not unlikely. For politicians, they are likely, they are a reality. It's just that they also understand that in the political landscape, you really need to employ something that is often employed in literature. It's called suspense. You can't go around just talking about everything that you haven't planned. No. You bide your time. You let the innuendos and the suggestions take place. You let discussions around it take place. Essentially, what you're doing is you're trying to get a feeling of what people actually think. Because what people think, you're talking about people who want to understand how the Mwananchi think. It's a politician. When you've understood what they think and what they like, you then give them a little more. But suspense is always, should we say, it's the common tool that is often used. Did we know what the outcome of the handshake would be? Those who were shaking hands knew. By the time you're shaking hands and talking about it, you have that plan laid out. It's not that you're laying it out as you go along. It's laid out. And you have a clear understanding. This suggestion would imply that there's an interference expected with the handshake. And I'm saying there isn't an interference, just like I've questioned in the past. Is there really a problem that has existed between the president and the deputy? I have doubted it from day one. Now, my doubts are actually being proved to be true. There never was a problem. The problem was us misunderstanding the political direction that all these activities were taking. But now it'll become clearer.
Maybe there are two things happening. One is that all along it was calculated to create the impression that there is a disharmony between the president and his deputy, while there's increased harmony between the president and his erstwhile rival and foe, Raila Odinga, where now they call each other brother, and the other guy is no longer even in the homestead. He's not considered anything. He's not a cousin. He's just that guy, right? And now that guy and the brother start talking. Maybe that was the script all along. Or could be brother and that guy are now aligning because they've realized that all along this guy has been talking about calling me brother. Kumbe there's another brother, small brother.
There's a real brother.
Nyumba kubwa. That he is now gearing towards. With the formation of the One Kenya Alliance, Gideon Moi, a man is, what's his name? Musalia Mudavadi, right?
You are going with Wycliffe.
I was okay.
That is also his name.
Yes, Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi, right? And then there's Ford Kenyas, Moses Wetangula. There's Kalonzo Musyoka. That is the One Kenya Alliance. And there's been all this talk lately that the president seems to be gravitated towards, encouraging them to form this alliance and all. So maybe brother and that guy are now talking because they have something in common now.
They've decided to go on the offensive because they are smelling a certain being that we often refer to as a rat that often appears at such times in our electoral process. Yeah. And if we're to go by history, this is the time when people start seeing visions also and start being spoken to by dark creatures at night.
Yes.
You see, this is the time.
The demon.
Yes. I think we're approaching that season, isn't it? All right.
It could be that.
It could be that. I mean, if you present it that way, then one can assume that indeed the spiritual realm of our political setup is also gearing up to do what it normally does around such a time. So, yes, it is a possibility.
At the same time, I don't think that everything that's happening now would or have not been expected by everybody who's a player in this game. I think that things unfold over time. that make politicians then make the decisions that they make thereafter. I mean, what are some of the things that we are seeing with this reporting, whether it is or not, is that it could have been that this was the decision that we have made and that information came out. But at the same time, everybody's still trying to play sides. Everybody's still trying to see right now which is the best for me in terms of which way I will go. In as much as that suspense you talked about, where rapt attention of the people is needed, keep focusing on me. Keep focusing on me. At the same time, these folks are looking at what decision am I going to make today that will be best for me politically? That will be best for me. And then I can come now and wow people and say, well, this is what we are going to do. This is the direction in which we are going to go. Not necessarily for the benefit of the people, like I keep saying, but 100% for their own expediency when it comes to this political game. So people are jumping about. They've said other things before. Again, political silly season. Everybody can say, they can swear on the birth of their grandmother that this is where they're going and tomorrow change it. And unfortunately, people went along with that narrative. And so then you have a night meeting and you wake up in the morning and something different has happened. Now you had put all your support behind this individual. It's the game of politics. But I don't think that they are necessarily keeping themselves under lock and key, under suspenseful lock and key, because they want to see what the people want. They're doing this because they're trying to see, even as things change, which side should I be on that is going to make it possible for me to remain relevant? Not necessarily because I want to see what the people want. No, it is okay. So things are moving in the way of Ruto. Things are moving in the way of this alliance.
Do I hear you to be saying that we in the media, the ones who are creating this suspense?
No, I think a meeting. No.
With our reporting.
I think
we're just reporting the suspense
just
as
reporting
it
as it has happened. Somebody went to Narok. They were supposed to have come back to Nairobi. They didn't come back to Nairobi. So they decided, let's continue this meeting. And then at
how
night,
was it secretive when the information came out?
Everybody knew about it, so it wasn't really secret, right? These guys are not doing this because they want to see what the people will say. No, these people are doing it so that they can be on the best side, come out on the best side for them when this ribbon is placed for them to cross.
But my dear, best side for them, who will decide it? Is it not the people? You know, the people are an absolute cog in this entire wheel. You cannot do anything without the people being involved.
You think as they're sitting here having this meeting, they're thinking...
Yes.
I think they're testing the people. They're testing. That's why they're leaking this information.
Yes.
This secret night meeting, 9 hours long. If none of these people who was in that meeting has actually told that it was 9 hours long, how did we know? It's because they're the ones who have told people, that thing, we met from this time. In fact, we were supposed to have met in the morning, and then the DP had to go somewhere. And then, you see that picture of Kionjori and Oparanya and coming out at the helicopter? You see, how did they leak all that? All this is basically testing the waters, seeing the reaction. And it's the same kind of thing that we get just the other day with the ODM stalwarts talking about, this referendum does not even have to happen. You know this thing. And then the next thing, the president is with Raila. It's all about...
And then you are told the president, again night, the president called Raila at night.
And went to
For
visit
heaven's
him.
sake, don't these phones work in the daytime?
No, we're busy. Saving the country during the day.
Everybody's calling during the day. Mteja. And also it's cheaper. John is telling me, tariffs.
During the day, it's busy.
It's cheaper at night.
Things have come down at night. People's attention focused at night.
The tariff is cheaper at night as well. It's 9:15. Let's take a look at what the weather is going to look like throughout Nairobi and other parts of the country and other parts of the world. And then we continue the conversation. We are asking you the question this morning. What do you read from this meeting between Deputy President William Ruto and ODM Deputy Party Leader Wycliffe Oparanya? Good morning.
SpiceFM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
right, still cloudy in some parts of Nairobi. You're going to highs of 23 today, lows of 17. Rain in some parts of Nyeri, 23 the high and lows of 14. It's mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 19, highs of 25 and lows of 16. We'll look at lows of 13 in Eldoret, where it's partly sunny at 19. 23 and partly sunny in Kisumu, highs of 27 and lows of 20. Also sunny conditions in Kakamega at 23. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 15. It's 30 and sunny in Mombasa, highs of 31 and lows of 26. It is raining in some parts of Malindi at 28, highs of 31, lows of 27. Lows of 20 in Kampala, light rain in some parts as well. We'll go to highs of 26 today. Dar es Salaam, expecting rain in some parts, still raining in others. 26, highs of 30, lows of 24. Sunny conditions in Johannesburg at 21. We'll see highs of 25 today and highs of 33 in Lagos, where the sun is out at 26. Sun is also out in Kinshasa at 26, highs of 32. 17 and sunny in Beijing going towards afternoon. Late afternoon, rather, highs of 19 and lows of 6 today. Highs of 17 and lows of 9 in a very sunny Paris this morning at 3. And it's sunny in London at 6, highs of 11 and lows of 5. And we're going to wrap things up for today in New York. Coming into Friday early, it's 10 degrees. We'll see highs of 14, back down to lows of 10.
It's 18 after 9. We continue the conversation with regards to this meeting that's been reported. The Deputy President, William Ruto, met with ODM Deputy Party Leader, who's also the Governor of Kakamega County, Wycliffe Oparanya, in Narok. This meeting took place in Narok, and it was a 9-hour meeting, which was also attended by Mwangi, whose party is called, I don't remember the name of the party offhand, but I'll get it and as we continue.
I'm also thinking of it because if I recall correctly, the name lent itself to self-improvement and other such aspirational thoughts. I don't remember because when he launched it, anyway, carry on, please.
Its colors are yellow. There's a lot of yellow in that party. So yes, coalition building. And as you were talking about coalitions and these meetings and people coming together, I look back from the 90s when Section 2A was repealed into the first election of 92, where it was clear it was Moi versus individuals, Jaramogi, Kibaki, Anyona, Matiba. 92. 97, same. Moi versus individuals. Kibaki, Raila, Kijana Wamalwa, Charity Ngilu. It was individuals. And the talk then started coming to, the only way you guys are going to be able to dislodge this chap called Daniel Arap Moi and KANU is if the opposition united.
Service Party. Sorry. It just came to me.
It's the name of the party.
Service Party.
The Service
Kenya
Party.
Service Party. New service. But service is there.
I told you it was about improvement and self-enhancement.
Sorry, I had to interrupt you because it just
there's
came
party
to my
service
head.
and there's new
service.
and there's Kenya.
I can check, but yes, okay. I'm sure. Service.
There's service somewhere.
Yes.
Okay, get it. So if you now look at what happened after 97, the people who had participated in that election, the presidential election, Daniel Arap Moi was the winner with 2.5 million votes. That's 40% of the votes. Mwai Kibaki was second with 1.9 million votes. That's 30.8% of the votes. Raila Odinga was third with 600,000 votes, 10%. Kijana Wamalwa was fourth with 500,000 votes. That's 8%. And Charity Ngilu was fifth with 488,000 votes. That's about 7.8%. Talk started coming off. Look, as we go into 2002, opposition, please unite. Otherwise, Moi will leave KANU and KANU will still continue to rule. Before that had happened, of course, Raila saw a coalition building platform, went into KANU, formed coalition, merged with KANU. Mwai Kibaki, Michael Kijana Wamalwa, Charity Ngilu formed the coalition, and they called it the National Alliance of Kenya. And then the first time they met, they had a mid-morning meeting. It was some tea. I think it was at the Stanley Hotel. And you know the way these things happen. They will leak it to the media. And then the media will come and they'll meet them just as they're walking out of the Stanley, and they're wondering, why are you people here? And they were asked by journalists, okay, so tell us, so what was this meeting about? We hear that you guys are forming a coalition. And I remember Mwai Kibaki saying, just watch this space. It is just a meeting. It's just like the Boston Tea Party. It was just a tea meeting. It was just a meeting over tea. Of course, later we learned of the National Alliance of Kenya, which was a coalition, which now became the National Rainbow Coalition after the KANU rebels won the election. This thing of a coalition probably forming it's becoming a normal thing in this country. We shall form coalitions, we shall form this, we shall come together, we shall gravitate, and I think maybe it's a good thing.
You never had to follow the argument from the perspective that Dr. James Mwangi presented. You see, we don't have to have coalitions that follow the pattern and the model of what we see in the West. This thing that we are discussing now is how we form our coalitions. Is how we come together and how we address these things. And if I were to take that argument to its logical conclusion, I would argue that much as there's a lot of flack that has been pointed in the direction of the BBI, I would argue it's yet another attempt for a homegrown solution. It may not necessarily meet the standards of certain such activities that have taken place in the West, but even those things in the West aren't really working for them as they thought they would. So, what is the harm in us trying our own little bit to see how well that will work with us?
Solutions to what?
No, please bear in mind that we're discussing politics here.
No, but you've said a solution. I'm asking a solution to what?
I am also answering your question by first of all preparing you psychologically, and I'm telling you, consider that we are having a political discussion.
Temper your expectations.
Yes. What I've done a little bit, okay? This is a moral discussion. Given that we're talking about politics, I'm talking about possible political solutions. Not the political solution that will trump all solutions. A political solution.
One of.
It's a. Yes.
When TNA and URP were forming this coalition in 2012, going into the 2013 election, the word that the leaders of these two parties were using were that we want to bring the two warring communities of the last 5 years together so that there is peace.
Yes.
Moving forward.
Yes.
So the idea there was peace. On the other side, the CORD coalition, what was it that they were saying that they're coming together? What were they bringing together?
Change.
It was change.
Yes.
They were bringing an alternative.
Two of them were the incumbent. There was a prime minister and there was a vice president.
So what change?
Change.
And they were bringing change, right? By incorporating now the other two.
Change.
All right, sour. And then in 2017, the NASA coalition, still change
More
with
change.
Power from Plus.
Yes, more change.
And Jubilee bringing in all those 13 political parties.
In fact, they were ahead of the game because not only bringing all the 13 political parties, but they were bringing in all the promises that they hadn't fulfilled in the previous term.
And consolidating them.
Yes, we thought they were actually going to fulfill them. Little did we know that they were actually very consistent. They were going to continue the second term and not fulfill them also. So, okay, they're consistent.
In comes Ndu's question. So formation of this New Kenya Alliance, whatever alliance this could be, Ruto Raila Alliance, Raru. Uhuruto.
Well done.
So you go with Raru.
Rura.
Or Rura.
Eric, the way you're going, we're soon going to end up with Waru. Keep going. Keep ruing and rying. And
No, actually, there is Kionjuri. There is Mwangi Kionjuri. So there is Mwarura.
Yes. Which is no relation of Amarura.
Or nothing, eh? Or Kirarura.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
What would this coalition be offering?
Yeah.
As a solution?
Change.
Change from what to what?
To what? To?
Change to bring the people closer to the resources that only the government can provide for them.
Oh,
and
you're
getting
still
them in
stuck
touch.
on
What
this
do you mean?
thing. Now, with that, you're like a dog with a bone. See,
I'm actually just telling you what they're going to say. I'm not being prophetic here. They repeat the same thing over and over. They just sort of like move the words around, but they all say the same thing. What do you think they say that is new?
Okay, so now this new alliance essentially would come just to say the same thing that everybody else has been saying before as the reasons as to why they have come together.
Yes.
So it's not change.
There
It's
is
not
change.
different.
It's in the people saying it. Look, tell me, for instance, when you talk about these delightful legal documents that all political parties have, called a manifesto, that tells you what it is they plan to do, etc., 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 blueprint, they very rarely differ if you think about it. Hardly. But this isn't new to this country. Remember, we mentioned in this show a while back that one particular political party in the UK, New Labour, there were people who had difficulties determining how different this party was from the Conservative Party, because the similarities were actually quite astounding. In name, New Labour Party. Okay? Now, all I'm saying is that politicians need to talk to the electorate to tell them that they're the ones who are going to bring the much awaited for, much anticipated, much needed service. Each of them will find new words for telling the people the same thing.
Which is bollocks, unfortunately. Because now what we are looking at is that it is not that you're providing a solution for people. It is not that you're providing a solution. It's that you're messing around with their psyche to make them think that you are, whereas what you're looking for is staying power in that political scene for your own purposes and interests. This convincing of the people is a means to an end. This making them hearing what it is that they feel so that you can know, should you make a move left or right? It is not about them. It is all about you, using them as bait to see then how far you can go. All these people who are forming Service Party of Kenya, I don't know, Kenya One Alliance, move from one to the other. They all come, just like you say, they all come and tell you the same thing. For a new, improved Kenya. For a Kenya void of political conflict. For a Kenya where there will be equitable distribution of resources.
Yes.
For a Kenya where the economic status will be lifted from level 1 to 2 and then later on to 3 and 4.
Yes.
All those things to be said.
For
but
a
what
Kenya
I'm
where
trying
improvement will be new. Okay?
What I'm trying to say is that everybody is now using the same words to put themselves in a particular place. It is not about improving the country.
But that isn't.
It just sounds like something nice to say. It sounds like something that people would expect you to say when you are behind that podium and you've come to announce to us that you formed a new political party or an alliance. It is about the individual. That's what I keep saying.
Yes, it is.
It is.
And it is to be expected. Because political parties want supremacy, they want power, and they will do everything within their means to communicate the thing that would get them there. And the thing that would get them there has to be addressed to the people who will get them there.
Now, what I'm trying to say is that thing that is being communicated to the people is not the truth.
I'm wondering why you think it should be true.
Why is it not the truth?
Why should you lie to people?
Why is it not the truth?
Because you're coming to tell people that, you know, what
And
we're
why-
actually coming to do is to improve the country, want to make sure that the economy gets better and better. Whereas...
Where is the lie?
Phil, that's what you want, but are you going to actually do it when you get there?
And I'm actually asking the question, why shouldn't they lie? Remember, these aren't moral agents, okay? Look, there is a simple issue here about leadership, and how good leadership pans out. It's not something you need to look for. You'll see it. It'll stare at you in the face. But the moment we've negotiated and we've stepped down the qualities of leadership, or we've decided we are not going to make what we think is important non-negotiable, then what we've done, we have opened that space for would-be, wannabe leaders to simply have a field day in doing what they do best, talk. So they will talk, and they will talk. And we're also good at listening, and we will listen, and we will listen. I personally won't complain. I won't even point fingers. When I say the people in charge of our welfare steal from us, I'm not complaining. I'm simply stating the fact. Okay?
This is another fact. The people that are in charge of our welfare or the welfare of Kenyans lie to you on a regular basis. It's just a fact.
It's a fact.
Now, you don't have to listen to these lies. You don't have to continually put in your support to these people who are essentially stealing from you.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
I don't think they entirely lie. You know, they tell you the truth. It's just that they don't tell you the whole truth.
Okay. So an omission of...
Omission is commission.
No. Withholding information. It's like tax evasion and tax avoidance.
Okay. And we are going beyond the terminology and we're going beyond semantics, isn't it? So we're saying...
If somebody has... If I ask you, City, where were you? And you say I was outside. You just haven't told me where exactly you are outside. So if I found out later that you are actually committing a crime, I didn't ask you whether you were committing a crime.
No, you weren't.
I just asked you where you are.
But you see, we are... Look, are we discussing the moral standards by which we should uphold our leaders? Are we demanding that there should be a social contract that we must have with our leaders? And even before we talk about the contract, forget signing, talk about it, that somebody must have a provable track record with which we can then consider we can have a discussion about considering them for something.
The social contract bit is very important because that's where it's very clear what you say and what
you will do.
I understand. Now, if the social contract was, I'm going to build schools, I have not talked about the quality of schools, the number of schools, whether it's a complete school from kindergarten to high school, whether it's 2 classes in a school.
Or it's a roof.
It's a roof.
With half a wall.
Yeah. I haven't lied.
Do you know what has brought this to the fore for me this morning?
Let's take a break first. And then
let's take a break.
27 minutes to 10 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. As we take this break, have you registered your child for the Kenya National Challenge? The Kenya National Challenge empowers students in kindergarten through 11th grade to acquire a deeper understanding of math, computer science, robotics, sharpen their computational skills, and nurture their creative abilities by connecting math to real life. Register for this generationnextchallenge.com. Now that kids are at home and they are on holiday, this is what they could do. Get online, participate in these challenges, participate with other students from across the country on this one platform, and with this they could actually even win scholarships to participate in global challenges. What does it entail? Curriculum aligned math, aligned with grade specific common core math standards, innovative virtual robotics, mitigating COVID learning loss, designing and systems thinking. Students build design thinking skills through the cycle of ideation and iteration and learn to create systems with interacting parts. GenerationNextChallenge.com. Brought to you by the Standard Media Group, by Fanisi Academy, and by Ademba Otieno Pan-African Hub for Higher Learning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice FM, Nakuru. Traffic.
So we're still looking at some traffic in industrial area this morning. Right around Likoni Lunga. Bunyala Road also. Folks are crying, hooting their horns. The police are not opening. Traffic cops not helping out there. Hopefully that'll open up for us. But as we move into the city, you're going to again get back onto Uhuru Highway if you're going towards the CBD and get stuck in the monumental traffic that there is there this morning. So this one we have to sit through, guys. We're probably going to see traffic until about 11 o'clock coming off Mombasa Road, joining with everything, all the feeder roads into Mombasa Road this morning. So that one we cannot avoid. We're likely to see traffic through the day today, in and outbound later on. Okay, most other parts, it looks pretty good. We shouldn't have too much of an issue there. In case you do, let us know so we can tell everybody else, and then maybe we can avoid. Right. SpiceFMKE on Twitter, text on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice
spice up your life.
(24-10). So what do you make of this talks of a coalition between Raila and Ruto? So this comes because there was a meeting between the Deputy President and Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya, who's also the Deputy Party Leader of ODM, who also has applied to be the torchbearer of ODM in the next general election. And the ODM itself is playing games with this particular nomination. So submit, there's a deadline, we have submitted. Now, again, there's information from the Electoral Board. Raila has submitted. No. Sifuna says that was an April Fool's joke.
This happens all the time, really. So, it happens all the time.
What?
This
dance?
Yes, it isn't just so that someone can be declared to have been chosen by the National Executive Board Committee or something.
Via a clear process that is in the party's constitution.
Political parties are by design not democratic. I don't know why there's always this strong attempt to make it look like it's very, very democratic. No, political parties, by their very nature, are owned. They have owners. And whatever processes they use, yes, call them internal processes. You may even call them democratic if you want. But by and large, if you look at that process, many things are predetermined. You decide this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to go about it. And that is how they are structured. And there is nothing wrong with it. That is how political parties are structured.
Okay. Let's go to the phone lines. Our friend Ed Getonga is on the line. Good morning, Ed.
Hey, morning, dude. How are you doing, guys?
We're fine.
And I'm back to Nyeri now.
Okay. Now, for how long?
So here's the thing. For how long? Until this lockdown is over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stay safe, bro. So.
Here's the thing, I think people forget that the monkeys are still the same in the forest. These same politicians, actually, look, you know what I find funny is, and I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but truth be told, the same politicians who say that tunaungana ndo tulete amani are the same ones which cause unrest. You know, if a snake changes its skin over a period of time, it doesn't mean because it has a new skin, it's not a snake. And I can assure you of this, even if we have a night meetings, or as you've said, lower tariff, that's why they call it night. Even if we test the waters, the thing is this. These guys who are trying to say that they have a solution are the same cause of our problem.
Ed, you don't have very much faith in our political class, do you?
Don't mind him, Ed. Even him, he doesn't.
Okay, I can tell you this, Bonaciti.
Yes.
As far as our political class is concerned, I only have faith in some individuals because I've seen the kind of people they are.
Okay.
But even with those, I can say we can use those guys as collateral damage. That's how I will sacrifice them. Because the whole thing is rotten. The whole political class of Kenya is rotten. And that is why, look at this. You know, like Moi said, Kanu, they'll rule Kenya for 100 years. Look at this. The same people who are here, the kingpins, Musalia Mudavadi, they had ties to, Kanu back then. So it's the same. It's like, when you recycle a product, it doesn't mean that it's a new product. It's the same product.
Oh, okay.
So, and this is not the last. This is not the last coalition they are going to form, and this is not the only one. Hata hiyo Kenyampi, hata kutakuja ingine.
Sure.
Yes, but
okay.
The thing is, just as you ask, which solution are they trying to give? None.
You know, even as you say all those things, Ed, fact of the matter is, the players right now in the political space talk of a coalition on Raila's corner. Now there's Ruto, there's Dr. Alfred Mutua, there's Mwangi Kionjori, who comes in with Ruto. There are the others, okay? Go to One Kenya. Oh, no, and then there's Dr. Muhisa Kitui also, who's being associated with this particular coalition.
Yes.
Go to the others. You'll find one Kenya, which has all those other leaders, the leaders of KANU, ANC, Ford Kenya, Wiper.
Yes.
Then you have Martha Karua, who maybe also will form her own coalition with others. They are the same political leaders.
Yes.
Unless you're telling me that there's somebody else who you want us to consider, to think about, to talk about, even if we say, oh, monkeys, same, it's a forest of monkeys.
Yes.
And we're going to elect monkeys.
Yes.
So what solution then do we have? Or options do we have?
There's something I tell people, and I always say this, Erica. The power is between your ears and in your pocket, in your vote and your brain. It's up to you to see what person H has got to bring to the table. And then it's you to decide whether person H. Don't I tell people, don't believe that you may elect so and so, you kutupa kura. It's better to be part of a solution that most people don't want than being part of the problem and mass. Yes.
Okay. We hear you. Thank you very much, Ed.
Have a good one, guys.
Have a lovely one as well. Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room, 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. What do you make of this talk of a new coalition that has now Raila at the center of it? There have been talks of bringing in Mukhisa Kitui into this coalition, Dr. Alfred Mutua into the coalition. Has Kivutha Kibwana been mentioned with this coalition or a different one?
Yes.
Kivutha Kibwana here. Now, William Ruto, the deputy party leader of ODM, has actually gone to meet William Ruto in William Ruto's farm in Narok. And they had a 9-hour night meeting, secret meeting. That has
not so secret.
Not so secret. What do you make of that? Martin in Kisumu, good morning.
Good morning. How is everybody there?
We are well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Allow me to contribute.
Go ahead, please.
First, I want to contribute on the meeting between the Kakamega governor and Ruto. First, I think there is impression that the governor represented Raila Odinga.
Yes.
In that meeting. Me, I'm viewing it differently. I think that he just went there for himself. You realize that he also wants to be the president, and he has applied for the same. So that he's being wooed by Ruto so that he can definitely represent maybe Western Kenya, where we have various presidential candidates or aspirants. We have Mudavadi there, we have Mukhisa Kitui, we also have Wetangula. So I think Ruto is trying to, get some people who are a little bit having some political base. Yeah, I don't think that...
so you actually think this is Oparanya wanting to decamp from ODM to go into Ruto's side?
Definitely. And you realize that these governors of ODM, they are finalizing their term.
Yes.
Of course, they are seeing that ODM is not going to help them. After their term expired, we have Governor Joe, we have Governor
Oparanya.
of Oparanya and the Governor of Kilifi. Are you getting that? So these people just they are retiring and they don't want to accept that the time is up for them to go and rest. So they are just gambling around. They are just gambling around.
I agree.
They are looking for the next thing. They still have a lot of contribution to make to this country. Martin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rono in Eldoret, good morning.
Good morning to you, good people.
Good morning,
Morning
sir.
to you, Rono. It's been a while.
It's been a while, but I've always been listening to you.
Good to hear that.
I'm glad you are talking about this today. The first call I ever made to your station, I was criticizing you guys for talking politics. Unfortunately, I was wrong.
Why were you wrong?
Life is politics. Now, it depends on which kind of politics we want to talk about. Is it what we are talking about now, or what we are talking about earlier on with Dr. Mwangi? Yes, and therein lies the big divide.
The divide, yes.
Yes, I would like to talk about the earlier one. This one is just show. Just like any other show, it will be over soon.
This is
WWE. This is WWE, Ruto versus Raila, Uhuru versus Ruto, Oparanya versus me, name it. But no solution.
Okay, talk about the Dr. Mwangi politics.
And I'm just supposing it into this. We talk about leadership in very cognitive terms. What we talked about in the morning was true leadership with substance. This is someone who has thought through an idea, crystallized it into actionable activity, and solve the problem, and give you a model of doing it in other issues. I wish we had someone talking about bringing in Dr. Mwangi into government, and him cutting through the hairs of indecision and all the other funny stuff.
Will you Kenyans let him?
It's not about Kenyans letting him. Kenyans did not let him. Kenyans did not let him do what he did at Equity. He actually let Kenyans alone.
My brother, surely there's a fundamental difference here.
Yes.
In the commercial world, in the industrial world, in the corporate world, you don't need a plebiscite. You don't need an entire constituency to vote for you.
My friend, we vote every day.
Yes, we do. But
when
look
I
at the
open my
votes that
account,
Mwangi has got by
when you go to the bank and open an account, that's a vote.
It is a vote, but that's what I'm saying. But that vote, my friend, is because I see where he's going, and I agree with this up to a point. He's voted for, if you look at the accounts that particular institution has, because they've said they like what he's doing and they can bear some relevance in their own lives. But that, my friend, is in banking. How many people do you know who've had a sterling record of helping build schools, helping create bursaries, and then they present themselves for election, and nothing comes of it?
My good friend, read your history well. Dr. Mwangi had a very nasty experience at banking before he went to Equity, before he went into the building society. Dr. Mwangi did not succeed because he was a banker. He succeeded because he cared about people. And people responded by voting along to work with him. That is what we need.
That's what I was asking the question.
Day meetings or whatever we want to call them, and night-long meetings. They'll take us nowhere.
That's what I was asking, Rono. Will you Kenyans let him? Number one, by electing him, and number two, by supporting him with what he's doing? Or will you start saying, now look at this man. He's gone in there. He's gone in there, instead of focusing on mambo ya mwananchi wa kawaida on a daily, akuji hata kutuongelesha, anakaa tu huko State House, anaongeleshana na watu wengine wa biashara kama yeye, anafanya biashara na nchi yetu. That's what you Kenyans will do. Tunawajua sana nyinyi.
There used to be a very famous TV program, ilikuwa inaitwa Vitimbi.
Yes.
If you remember, Ojwang and Co.
Yeah.
Where are they now?
Ojwang, I believe, passed away.
Churchill, but the program should have been,
sustained,
happy and hell.
Yes.
But you now have Churchill, you now have Jalango online, running a media house of his own. We can run politics the same way. Let us just get to do it right. Have the public along with us, and we'll forget about these guys meeting. Whether they meet at midday or at midnight, it will be an issue.
Thank you, Rono. Have a lovely day.
Have a good morning too.
Cheers. Francis Wambogo in Mombasa.
Yes.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Very well.
Mine, first of all, is in regard to the coalition. Hello.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes. And first, politicians need coalition so that they can get power. Politicians and parties are to power and interest. That's fundamental. That's first thing.
Francis, sorry to interrupt you. I think you've put us on speakerphone and you're on the move.
No. No, I'm actually packed so that I can talk. I'm not in speaker.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Haya, tuendelee.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, first of all, we must know that the political parties and coalition is merely politicians looking for power and interest. But doesn't mean because they are same politicians, the things they will do thereafter are the same. They are quite different. They may be the same in terms of where we need roads, we need an economy to be improved, we need hospital, health care. It's just like Big Four. Maybe somebody else can come in a different way and fulfill the Big Four and even call it a different name, but fulfill it in a different way. If you look at Tanzania here, next to us, when Magufuli was fighting corruption and doing his own thing, he had a deputy. And the deputy got his own chance, doing maybe the different things quite different than the deputy. So in the same case, when you form coalition, for example, if you say the rectangular coalition, the Ruto coalition, the Raila coalition, fundamentally the issue of economic fighting corruption may be the same. But in terms of implementing it, it will be quite different. Very, very different because we are different. Mbake was a deputy vice president for Arap Moi for quite a long time. Same past. But when it came to the government of an individual, he did so many things different from Arap Moi. It isn't the same thing. People ask about Ruto. Maybe Ruto did things differently from Uhuru. And Raila the same. It's not that because they were in the same coalition and they do the same thing. That notion does not hold any water. Yes, monarchies are the same, the parties are the different. Politics is about power. And
so it's a person wielding the power at that time.
Yes, and how he's going to do his own thing.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
Even
you,
holding
Francis.
coalition is also a big thing. How do you manage your own coalition? Just shows you about how you're doing your money. There's a caller who told you about Mwangi, equity. If you look even banking, they have all got all the same interest. Maybe to grow this company or this bank become as big as equity. That's good intention to all bankers, but they get there. The thing they fail to get there is because of the leadership, not because of the intention. The manifestos are good, and there's nothing wrong with manifestos. And manifestos are not lies. For example, even you yourself seated there, there's where you want to put this Spice FM. There is that height.
Yes.
Now we will be looking at the leadership to put it to be the biggest maybe in East Africa and maybe in the region or something like that. So the intention is good. The manifesto is there. Now it's the leadership.
It boils down to the individual leader.
Yes. The
Point
quality
made.
of, you have the capacity to do it. Yeah. But manifestos are not merely lies. You cannot say, for example, now I cannot say that the Big Four manifesto is a lie. It's not a lie. It is that he has been either able or unable to implement it or to do it. Is it doable? Yes, it's doable.
Before you actually leave, I want to ask you one question. Have you ever heard of a political leader coming out and telling you that we cannot actually do this? We know we promised you, but we cannot do it. Not an excuse why it hasn't been done, but categorically stating that they cannot now do it.
No, you can't do that. You cannot go to an interview to say that you cannot do it. Something.
So you make a promise without considering that it can be done. And then when it isn't done, you are quiet or you justify they're not doing it. That is what we are calling a lie.
Or you make another promise to cover that one and take people's attention away from that initial promise that you made so that their attention, you give them something else shiny to look at.
So where's the lie? The lie is now or the lie is then?
It's all a lie. A lie is a lie is a lie.
Listen, that's not a lie. For example, let me give you, let us say about the Big Four. Big Four is not a lie because it's derived from
not yet. Not yet.
So we can say this. Big Four was not a lie in 2017.
No, even now, it is not a lie because it is derived from Vision 2030. It's just an operation, it's an operation plan from strategic plan of Vision 2030.
Was there a timeline that was placed on
so if that person who is having an operation plan
probably the lie would be
yes?
the lie would be in the promise to execute this
Yes.
In a certain time frame.
That's not a lie. He has been unable to do it.
So it's about the inability to
It's like
to
somebody
execute.
gives you an operation plan to do something in your station,
They haven't
and you are
lied.
not able to do it. So that's not a lie. You have been incapable of doing it. But
I hear
the
you.
station was to do it.
I agree with you, Francis. Thank you very much for calling.
Thank you.
Asante sana. Well, so this other person actually also called and said it's Martin in Kisumu. He does not see this as Ruto meeting Raila's man. He sees Ruto meeting Oparanya.
This is politics.
And that Oparanya is not there to represent the
Raila.
interests of Raila. No, Oparanya is there.
There for himself.
As an individual. Just like Mwangi Kionjori is there as an individual, and Ruto is not representing Uhuru, he's there as an individual. Those are three individuals who are crafting their own alliance. Nothing to do with Raila.
We shall wait and see. Some of these things, I won't even bother pontificating. I will simply wait and
You
see.
just wait.
Yes, because the seeing will be seen.
Time for seeing is here. Okay, City, tell us about today's proverb.
He who burns down his own house knows why ashes cost a fortune. The thing that caught my attention with this proverb was not the actual burning of the house, but the circumstances under which a house could get burnt. Whether it is accidental, whether it is deliberate, whatever the reason. But anyone who understands ownership, or whether it's an aspiration or whether it's a reality, will know that people don't build houses so that they can burn them down. And when the house is burnt, whatever the circumstances that led to its burning down is usually costly. It's essentially what you've done is you've burnt all the investment that you ever made. And that investment apparently is now represented by a heap of ash.
I see.
Now that ash is expensive.
It's expensive.
Now extrapolate it to anything that you like and you'll find that the meaning is quite sensible.
Probably the Swahili equivalent of that is mpiga ngumi ukuta, huumiza mkonoe.
Mwenyewe, yes.
Right. Mchoma nyumba yake atajua hajui. That is it. Have a lovely weekend. Now, tomorrow there's a new show that we introduced a couple of weeks back right here on SpiceFM. From 10 a.m. every Saturday, we have Double O Direct with Olivia Tieno. Join her tomorrow as she hosts pediatric emergency and critical care specialist Dr. Mola. You may text questions in advance for Dr. Mola on 40127. That's 40127 for expert answers to questions about your child's health. It's a special pediatric edition of Double O Direct with Dr. Mola tomorrow from 10 a.m. only right here on SpiceFM. Then you'll have a lovely weekend. And then we will see you again on Monday next week, God willing. Stay safe. Make sure you observe all the COVID-19 protocols. This thing is real, my brothers and sisters. And let's do everything we can. It's not about now, it's because the politicians call political rallies. It's but you see, but why are people not... It's your life, my friend.